Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Socrates and Jesus book again today because it's just such a goddamn banger. It's a banger. One of the greatest books I've ever read. And so where are we in the book? Well, last time Socrates brought up the puzzle of participation. There is a hole in the idea of participation. Let me just look through the text that I have here. Well, we were covering dreams. Okay, let's put it in this way. We have discovered a few mysteries last time. What were the fundamental mysteries? First of all, dreams. It seems like the best spiritual method or the best yoga is dream analysis. Why? Because the dreams that we have, let me just fix one more thing. I'll keep it like this. The dreams that we have direct us to what we need to look at in our philosophical midwifery to uncover the false beliefs that prevent our spiritual development. So, normally, as we've been reading in the philosophical midwifery book, the dreams that we have, the problems that we address in philosophical midwifery to uncover the false beliefs we carry that cause all our problems in our life are just everyday problems. What are the problems that you're having in your everyday world? Have you recognized, are you seeking a personally meaningful goal, and have you recognized blocks to that goal? If so, then you can reflect on that in the art of understanding, the art of the dialectic, philosophical midwifery, to discover the blocks that we're all here to discover. Okay? But what if there are things that you're missing? What if there are clues that will help you in discovering your problem? What if there is some hints that you need to find out more about what you've forgotten? Or maybe there are some prompts that you can be given that can help your insight and your seeing about your problem that will free you from it. Well, all of those things come to us in dreams. So we supercharge our philosophical midwifery by beginning with dream analysis. Clues, hints, guidance, and even dreams can even point to what is a more significant problem or even a more urgent problem that needs to be addressed. So, in terms of solving problems, dream analysis is the supercharge, the nitrous of the Formula One race car that is philosophical midwifery. Equally too for the other part of the game, once freed from problems, or when we have some sort of freedom from problems to pursue reading a text like the one that we're reading today, can we get guidance in that? Can we get guidance in our understanding, in our text that we're reading? Yes, through dreams, the dream maker. Not only that, we can have spiritual experiences in dreams that we normally forget or dismiss or don't see the significance of. However, through dream analysis, you can be brought through understanding to see those things, to see that they're significant, and also to see that you've overlooked them. And in the ideal conditions of dream analysis, you can re-experience those enlightenment states. So not only are you having enlightenment states, you are developing understanding along with it. And we've been seeing in the text how significant that is. In particular, the story of Jesus being somebody who has had an enlightenment experience but failed to address his false beliefs and failed to understand it properly, playing out the tragedy that we see in the Gospel of Mark. So, you can have a spiritual experience in dreams, but through dream analysis, you can relive that, re-experience that, along with understanding of it, as well as understanding why it is you might have missed it. And of course, see it within the context of your goals. In other words, enlightenment experiences are not one-off. They come as stages of your development, in particular, as you seek to master a text. So that's why we read a book on this channel. It is the funnest, most banger-est of all books. But in seeking to read and even, master the book, you can have these insights and enlightenment states as you develop your understanding to reach the highest peak of human excellence. And also you can surface the blocks that prevent that sort of growth. Making dream analysis, the best yoga, the best meditation, the best spiritual method. So what's the mystery? The mystery is we don't have a book teaching us how to do dream analysis, as we do with midwifery. So that's the whole. And the challenge. Can we piece together, maybe from pieces of this book, what would be the structure and the parts of dream analysis? So that's one mystery from last time. Another mystery is the mystery of participation. We've been talking about loving relationships and the symposium, and how this human quest that we're all on, is one motivated by love and logos. That is, we seek beauty. We love beauty. We want to join with beauty. We want to join fully with beauty. We want to join fully and eternally with what we consider beautiful. Not entirely possible in the physical world. So how can we have that feeling of lack and desire that we call love without there being a principle in reality for its fulfillment? And if we seek beauty along with understanding, love and logos, we can progress through stages of apprehension and joining with beauty to the cause of beautiful things themselves. For instance, we normally see in the physical world beautiful things. A beautiful streamer, a beautiful puppy, a beautiful painting, a beautiful sunset. In other words, we see beauty as an adjective, and we see its expression in a manyness. Therefore, through reasoned reflection, we can ask the question, what is the cause of the manyness? What is the one that we call beauty? There has to be something the same for us to have a word for it, for us to recognize it, for us to distinguish it. Where is beauty itself? Or another way of saying it, where's the noun that is the cause of the adjectives? Now, beauty itself is one of the ideas, capital I. I like to say eidos, so I don't have to say with a capital I, to distinguish it from concepts. Normally we think of ideas as concepts, but in the Greek, the word eidos means aspect of beholding. As you grasp knowledge or mind turns around, ousia, and knows itself as pure being, connects with itself at all parts, one of the aspects of that experience is beauty itself. And last time we even got the word bliss. It's experienced as bliss. Now, when you think about normal physical world expressions of love and the desire for union with beauty, you can think of physical things. Like, my two hands can only join at certain parts. This part of my hand can't connect with this part of my hand. In other words, you can't have full connection with beautiful things in the physical world. However, as mind is not physical, every part of mind can connect with every other part of mind all at once. So therefore, the fulfillment of what our soul seeks through love, in desiring beauty, full connection with beauty, can only be fulfilled in the experience of ousia, which is a Greek word that means, well, it's the function of mind, the cognitive function of mind to turn around and know itself completely, of which understanding is a shadow, because we understand ourselves. We can understand ourselves through understanding. And as we've been reading, the parts of understanding are all the aspects of pure ousia. That's the eidos, those aspects of beholding, including all the parts of understanding, whole, part, same, different, like, unlike, and its qualities of beauty and justice. These are the eidos that we can therefore know, because that experience of your mind knowing the mind, or mind minding mind, gives us the paradigm from which all beautiful things derive. But not only that, all just things. So as we've been reading, we've been seeing that it's necessary for every single politician and spiritual leader, because we want to justly harmonize our souls, and the jobs of politicians is to justly harmonize the laws of society in alignment with the laws of reality itself, which can only be done if you have an apprehension of being, along with an understanding of those aspects. Therefore, not just an enlightenment experience, but understanding too. Which is why we were saying dream analysis is so significant, because you relive those experiences along with understanding, the two of which are necessary. And why we read these texts. Because in developing our understanding by learning to read the way we're doing, and by reading these texts which reflect the logos, reflect the understandable pattern of the eidos, our spiritual method of understanding is also a preparation for making sense of that experience. And we've been talking about all of the different people in anime and in history, all the archetypes of people who've had an enlightenment experience and failed to understand it. And then they play out the tragic implications of using their false beliefs or justifying their false beliefs with this experience. Or maybe you've had a glimpse of the experience and you fail to recognize that it's just a part, or one stage and there are many stages. Or failing to recognize there's a whole different category of enlightenment experience, which we can understand from Socrates' mean analogy, where he describes, hey, I'll describe philosophy in one sentence. As suns in our physical world are to the brilliant light of being, or ousia, so too is being to its cause, the good self, or the one self. So meaning people have had an enlightenment experience of being without recognizing they're only halfway there. Necessary step in order to have the paradigm or models of beauty and justice, but not the final step. In fact, it has that fancy word. It's the penultimate step, which you can impress your friends with over coffee. Instead of saying it's the second last, you say it's the penultimate. By the way, you know that brilliant light of being experience Jesus had? That was only the penultimate kind of enlightenment experience. And then everyone at the coffee shop will cheer. Because you're using that fancy word penultimate, and they will all clap.
Wow.
But there's only one other person at the coffee shop, it seems. Jesus, that guy doesn't stop, does he? Enough. Hey, welcome. Bonjour. Genevieve. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, we have been learning that in truly loving relationships, you can make that journey through love and understanding. Love without understanding is a dangerous, dangerous thing. And we've been seeing that also as the expression of what it means to be a believer. Because belief is a lower cognitive function, it isn't understanding and it isn't knowledge. It also doesn't have a feeling. If you are stuck at the level of cognitive function as a believer, perhaps you've joined a group based on belief, like the Abrahamic religions, like MAGA and Zionism and all of the other terrible political groups that are bound by belief and not understanding, then you can't develop. You can't make things. Can't make things based on belief. You need to understand how a toaster works to make it. You can't, well, I believe it because Daddy Trump says so, or Jesus said so, or whatever. Nope. So to compensate from any feeling made by making or any feeling from insight or enlightenment, they have to break things. They can't make, so they break. So that's why they belief-based people fundamentally break or try to crush or destroy every member's use of self-reflection, ousia, which is needed for knowledge, bliss, and logos, or understanding, needed to reach knowledge and make sense of knowledge. But also, self-reflection, ousia, and understanding, logos, is needed to solve problems. So, belief-based groups fundamentally crush the highest and most important aspects of what it means to be a conscious being. Ousia and logos, self-reflection and understanding. So what? Well, so if you can't make things through understanding, you can't develop through understanding, you can't have whatever feeling is associated with the cognitive function of understanding, and you can't have the feeling associated with knowledge or enlightenment, you have to compensate. You have to borrow another feeling. So believers kill non-believers, crush other people's joy, sacrifice what they love, try and convert others to their religion. These are all destructive actions. And as they, so the feeling, which also reflects the state of being that they themselves are in, one of conflict. They're supposedly the same as everyone, but they feel different. You have to accept these limits to be a member, but you really want freedom or limitlessness. You seek knowledge, but you will always be restless and not at rest. Because you can't have the unity and complete rest of knowing of the self, trying to apprehend that through the cognitive function of belief. It's not for belief. It's a different thing. You can't hear light, but you can see light, because they're two different things. You can't see sound, but you can hear sound. Equally so, you can't believe knowledge. You can't believe understanding. It's a different cognitive function. It's a cognitive function from our early evolution before we had the ability to use language. Cavemen blindly believe that inside cave good, outside cave bad, scary. Cave leader, best leader. And this is the cognitive function preyed upon by politicians and spiritual people. MAGA. Nazis. Racists. Sexists. Everything that seeks to otherize and demonize and therefore seek to hurt or kill or destroy everything different because that's all they can do. And that feeling of associating that feeling of destruction as what it means to be knowing is sadism. So therefore, you come to seek or enjoy the feeling of hurting others. So you join ICE, you become a Nazi, etc., etc., etc. Why do all the billionaires and politicians not use their power to help people? Why does it seem like cruelty is the point? Because they are believers. They seek to be a knower without actual knowing, because that requires what we're learning here. They seek to function through their knowing without understanding, which is what's needed. They're believers. So they have to compensate by hurting people. So the same conflict that characterizes the existence of a believer, conflicted between the same and different, like and unlike, limit, limitless, manifests in how they function in the world, creating the conflict in their relationships, towards themselves, and of course in the world that we see currently. Because even though we demand understanding and knowledge from a doctor, from a mechanic, from a pilot, from an architect, we are yet as human beings to realize that, hey, there are two professions where we do not demand knowledge and understanding: politicians and clergy. For some fucking reason, we allow them to be just believers. And of course, the reason is our own stage of human development. We have not yet understood completely, which we're doing here, what it means to be a believer, and that our purpose, the meaning of life for everyone, not a part, for the whole of humanity, is to evolve from the cognitive faculty of belief and its manifestation as groups bound by belief into the cognitive function of understanding. That's our job. And we are seeing what plays out if we do not. So what? Well, so hang on a second. There's a mystery there. If the cause of all just things is the aspect or eidos of pure being or ousia, called justice itself, which we need to demand for every political and spiritual leader and experience and understanding of, how does that aspect, which exists in a non-physical, out-of-time reality, how does it create just things? How does beauty itself function as a cause for beautiful things? How does the noun create the adjectives? And how is it through our pursuit of love and logos, beauty and understanding, how is it that we can ourselves participate and unify in beauty itself? How does it come down to us? And how is it that we're able to revert upon our higher causes in our evolution and spiritual development? That's the mystery. That's the whole. How does participation work? And last time we heard Socrates say, I didn't give an explanation of participation. So we've got two mysteries. If dreams is the most significant, dream analysis is the most significant kind of conversation you can have with anyone. It's how you supercharge the removal of problems. It's how you supercharge your spiritual development. Where's the book on it? Where's the handbook? Where are the steps? Now we have deduced from the fact that all of the aspects of this new way of being we call philodianoia. Philodianoia, the new way of being, the art for mankind, what Socrates says I call as philosophical midwifery, how to function to all of those things involved with giving birth to a baby, guiding someone through the pains and the trials of giving birth, judging whether it's a noble birth or not, etc. Even hooking people up who can give birth to the right kinds of things. Matchmaking. Being a pimp, some people say. Philodianoia, the love of understanding. There's philosophy, the dialectic, the structure of understanding. By the way, the dialectic has 4 parts. The subject in relation to itself, or definition. That thing you've defined itself, how does it function to another? Demonstration. That functioning, that to another, how does it affect others in other areas? Division. And from that, can you synthesize that into a single idea and take that idea back to the self to gain a new insight into the subject? Conclusion. Definition, demonstration, division, conclusion. 4 parts. Now, what's interesting is there are 4 parts of philodianoia. The dialectic applied to truth, to the truth of self and reality. Philosophy, true philosophy, not modern philosophy. That's Aristotle that killed this. True philosophy. And you get that by reading the Platonic texts. That's why we read, and this kind of text. We are also, by reading this book, we are doing philosophy. We're reading a book that's true about self and reality because it's written by someone who is a master of it, Dr. Grimes. And Socrates, using the words of Socrates, who's also a master. Also talking about the Parmenides, also a master. Parmenides was Socrates' teacher. Also the words of Diotima in this book, another master. Female master. Yes, if you're a woman, you can become a master too. So philosophy is the dialectic applied to truth. Philosophical midwifery is the dialectic applied to what's false about self and reality, the underlying, unsuspected, false beliefs about self and reality we get from childhood that cause our problems. That's why we read the midwifery book, the Orange Sutra, we call it. On YouTube, you can find we're about 95 or so episodes in. As we're saying, dream analysis supercharges both. The dialectic applied to dreams unpacks the meaning of dreams for both the true in philosophy, guiding your spiritual progress and your reading, but also false, guiding your midwifery and your removal of problems. So what's true, what's false, what's both? And then finally, mythology, sharing it, applying through the dialectic, using that dialectic you've been learning about and learning to use to share what you've seen, share your understanding and insights through myths, through your art, or through dialogues. Inviting, where's my coffee? Inviting someone for a lovely coffee and say, hey, let's talk. Which benefits others and at the same time perfects your own vision, perfects your own understanding, and perfects your own functioning. So everything you've been learning in philosophy, midwifery, and dream analysis, you can risk in experience, in sharing with other human beings, in your creations, which is part of it. Being a mean analogy, passing on the teaching, which is necessary to perfect what you've been doing, your vision, your understanding, and your functioning. The dialectic, all the way through. So, what is the dialectic, therefore, applied to dreams, is one of the mysteries that we have uncovered in this book. We don't have a book. We have the text from Plato outlining philosophy, and this one from Pierre Grimes. From Socrates, which has Parmenides, his teacher, Diotima, Socrates himself, and the works of Pierre Grimes. Great. You can read those books for philosophy. We have the Philosophical Midwifery book that we read on this channel to learn the formal structure and patterns of midwifery, the only psychotherapeutic method that has been empirically proven to work. And of course, modern psychology borrows from the medical model, so it doesn't have its own paradigm. This is it. But also we can read Homer, because the story of Achilles is somebody going through philosophical midwifery. We don't have this. We don't have dream analysis. That's our mystery. If this is so important, what is it exactly? How do we do it exactly? What are the steps and stages exactly? What are the steps and stages for guiding someone through it? And as somebody learns to see the significance and meaning of their dreams, learns to gain a relationship with the dream maker, what stages do they go through? Because that's what we've been doing in midwifery, right? We've been learning the structure of how to ask the questions, but also to recognize the stages of development an individual goes through in midwifery. So what's the equivalent for dream analysis, if it's so gosh darn awesome and cool and important? Mystery 1. Mystery 2 is participation. If through this game of philodianoia we rise from the physical world of being, we have a picture for this? Surely we do. Here we go. We rise through the world of becoming, physical world of becoming, to the realm of being, where the Eidos are. Do we have more? What's a better picture, which has more terms? Surely we have more. A picture of the three realms with more words on them. Surely. I'm just looking for, here we go. I see 3 circles. Ah, look at that one. The realm of becoming, from our physical senses, where we get our beliefs from where we pick up our pathologos that we're all here to address. Hey, if we can move from that to the realm of being, which is philosophy, which is metaphysics, how do we participate? And equally so, how does beauty create beautiful things? How does justice create just things? So that's the second question, the question of participation. The third question we had last time was Aristotle. If modern philosophy isn't philosophy, it's Aristotle. What does that mean? Well, here's the question. If philosophy is exactly what we're here for, the meaning of life, not a part of us, but all of us, why is it so difficult? Why isn't it taught at school? Why isn't there a character in every sitcom that's a philosopher? Why do we not demand philosophers to be our spiritual and political leaders? Aristotle. Just as modern Christians don't listen to Jesus or Mark, they listen to Paul, a wolf in sheep's clothing, so too do modern philosophers not listen to Socrates, but the wolf in sheep's clothing, Aristotle, who puts a line here. Whoops. The world of becoming. Materialism. Stoicism. Materialism. There's only the material world, the physical world. Empiricism. You can only look at the physical world and understand it. Stoicism. Using the language of philosophy, but applying it to the physical world. This is modern philosophy. That's the puzzle of the difficulty of communicating something so obvious and simple to human beings. Obvious, simple, necessary. The love of the logos, the love of wisdom, the love of understanding, philosophy, because it's specifically being cut off because of Aristotle. That's the second puzzle. The third puzzle. First puzzle is dreams. How do we understand it? So we're working through that as we read. The second is participation. How does it participate? How exactly does being beauty itself cause beautiful things? How exactly does the noun create the adjectives? The third is, why is something so obvious, simple, and beneficial so difficult to communicate to our fellow man? Aristotle is a big part of that answer. It's not the whole of it. We still have the puzzle, but Aristotle plays a big part. And what's the other puzzle that came up last time? Oh, yes. One of the most important puzzles of this text. What exactly is the state of mind of what we are learning here is most important? If our journey is from the cognitive faculty of of belief, pathologos ignorance, into the development into understanding, because understanding can be used to understand beliefs and problems, to help people overcome their problems individually and as a species, overcome Nazism and MAGAism and fascism and sexism, all of these false beliefs individuals have and societies have. You need understanding. You need to understand how to do surgery. You need to understand how to fix a car to function, to solve the problems of the car. So too do you need understanding to solve human problems. Understanding is what we're learning in our reading. To be here, if you're here, you already have some sort of philosophical, these are the 4 stages of cognitive development that we're learning that match the 4 stages of beauty and love in the symposium. You got to start by realizing you don't know. Philosophical ignorance, being stung. But then you read. That's why we always read here. Read and review. Because it's by reading from these people who have gone through this journey, people who've already traveled to LA, you can listen to what they say on how to get there. That's the right opinions. But you don't want to just stay there. We have to take the notes or the right opinions and arrange them according to the dialectic and test it, use it, talk, create, find cool people to talk to, join their Twitch. That's the movement from right opinion to understanding. And that's the way of being that we can embrace. Because understanding is the preparation for knowledge and insight. But also you can apply understanding to those experiences. Even knowledge isn't as great as understanding. Understanding you can keep. An experience of insight or enlightenment is over. It has a beginning, middle, and end like every experience. Has a cause like every experience. Therefore, for wisdom, you need both knowledge and understanding, but also to go beyond experience to develop what Socrates says in the symposium, true human excellence. Hey, you've developed this love and logos relationship to the point where you've both experienced and unified with beauty itself. Now you can use that as a basis for human excellence. Just as we're saying we need to demand from all spiritual and political leaders this knowledge of reality and an understanding of its intelligible structure as the paradigm for just societies, just laws, just spiritual guidance. And therefore, this is just the basis for continual development to reach the good itself and true human excellence, or to be as immortal and a friend of the gods as any human can be, to quote Socrates himself. So, it's all about understanding, folks. Greater even than philosophy, because philosophy is specifically this, but we also want to address beliefs, and we want to go beyond this. Therefore, philodainoia, the love of understanding. So, the huge question is, if we've been using understanding to understand believers' pathologos ignorance, not yet even in the game, why? Because they think they know it. They're willing to kill non-believers, non-Christians, non-Jews, non-Muslims. They're willing to kill non-MAGA. They're willing to send the army into red states to kill non-MAGA, toe-headed fucking believers, fascists. Because it's the imitation of cruelty that they suffered from their own parents that becomes the model of self and reality. Therefore, what we really want to know is the true nature of self and reality, and the functioning with understanding of both is virtue, or human excellence, or the fulfillment of evolving species, including some humans. You can reach your complete fulfillment, highest excellence, if you are in this game. Therefore, if that's the true knowledge of reality and the, what was the word? Encounter, recognition, apprehension of self with understanding to function with it. If that's virtue, the functioning of understanding relative to self and reality, then the belief about self and reality and the cruel, sadistic destruction, because that's all belief can do, through the imitation of what it means to know self and reality, we can say vice is the shadow, the distorted shadow of virtue. So what? So if it's all really about understanding to solve that problem, human cruelty and injustice and ignorance, reach the truth of self and reality, and to go beyond it and function with excellence, the next stage of evolution and the purpose of humanity is philodainoia, love and understanding. Love of understanding. We've used understanding to understand the state of being of believers, right? In conflict between the self-logos terms, whole and part, same and different. They're always in conflict. They have to accept limits, but they want to be free or limitless. We've been talking a lot about the state of mind of knowing, bliss, apprehension, knowing yourself completely as eternal, outside of time. So people who've had near-death experiences or mushroom experiences or even different kinds of traumatic experiences have experienced that, and they talk about it a little bit, had a glimpse. But what then is the state of mind of what we're after? What's the state of mind of understanding? People who are in their purpose, the more evolved cognitive state of understanding, what's that feel like? What's that mode of existence? What's the state of mind or feeling state, so that we can recognize it in ourselves, perfect it in our life, but also keep an awareness of it so that when we fall out of it, when we get triggered, usually by people who reflect our parents' way of being, so we consider them real, they're the insults that really hurt us or trigger us. How do we have an understanding of the state of being of philodainoia? That's the third mystery. What are they? Mystery of dreams. How do we master dream analysis? Don't know yet. Mystery. How does beauty itself in knowledge cause beauty in the world? So that we participate in it and vice versa. Don't know. What is the state of being of Philodainoia, our purpose? Don't know. Why is it so hard to share this, the most important thing and the purpose of every human being's life, not a part, the whole? Why is it so difficult to share this with other human beings? Don't know. Well, in part because of Aristotle, in part because there are different reactions to new truth. We are developing a list of all of the different ways human beings can react to new truth, to rationality. We know in part because the sales pitch for ignorance and belief, whether it's Abrahamic belief or family pathologos belief, is a fear of understanding, a fear of the use of the mind, a fear of enlightenment, and a fear of the rational approach to understanding the divine. So we've got some parts, but it's still a mystery. Why is what's most important and most obvious so hard to communicate to other human beings? Those are the 4 puzzles we've got on the table from last time. Wow. Wow! So, that's where we are. 4 super cool, super interesting, super puzzling questions we have. And to carry a question, of course, is to be on a quest. That's the accepting a quest sound. So, one more time, just so we've nailed them down. How the heck do you understand dreams properly? How does how do we participate in beautiful things somehow because beauty has an eternal existence? How does the realm of being cause the physical world? And how do we participate in the higher? The question of participation. What is balloons? What is the state of mind of understanding? And why is it so hard to communicate what's so good and obvious to other human beings and needed? We'll carry those questions and we'll jump into the text and keep reading, because that's the best game in town, the noblest game. Carrying these questions as we continue to read a text written by a master of the logos. That's the game. The only real game in town. I actually remember Pierre, I had dinner with Pierre once and he said, if you could fly through the galaxy and go to other alien planets and meet other alien species, you know what I'd say? I'd say the same thing I say here. Hey, who around here is into the Parmenides? Who's into reading? It's the best game in town. Reading a text that's awesome and interesting anyway, in this kind of way. Moving through the cognitive functions. Keeping an open mind. Where's my pen? Keeping an open mind, curious, stung, empty cup, ready to be filled. Reading the text from which we can pull the clues, like playing a video game. Hey, the clues in solving a mystery of a video game aren't from other games. You don't carry, I need to solve, where is the key to open this this door in Resident Evil? Well, maybe I can use a mod and use a key I found in Silent Hill and use that key. No, you don't carry in a solution from another game. Equally so, you try and stay in the text. That's the right opinions. Finding the clues, the puzzles. By the way, part of finding a clue is you have to find that there is a puzzle. You have to find the question first before you try and figure out the answer. What we've been doing today, we've got 4 questions we're carrying with us. as we read the text to find the clues, the quotes from the text, that we can then piece together in the act of understanding, the funnest game in town, which has a state of mind. And as you go through it, maybe that's the solution. As we go through this reading, you can feel what it's like. So you can answer the question, what is that state of mind? That's the most important state of existence, Philadelphia. As I carry these questions, look for these clues, and piece them together in my notebook. And as we do that, that's the very preparation for openness to insight, knowledge. And same thing. How can I use the text to make sense of my highest vision of knowledge? To go beyond it? So that's the game. And Pierre said, by the way, if I was on another planet, I'd ask the same question. Who's reading the book? It's all this you do in the book. Reading a book, that's always fun. It's fun anyway. Interesting anyway. The only real game in town, sometimes called the noblest game. Reading. This kind of reading. With that, let's jump in and continue our quest together. Thank you so much for being in my questing party.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry, and
I'm looking for someone to share in
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure, says Gandalf. Let's jump in. Here is the book. Okay, let's catch up to where we are with those questions in mind. What's dreams? How's participation work? What is the state of mind of understanding? And why is it so hard to communicate this? The drama of dreams as an image of symbol of the self. Okay, so these are a lot of clues. How far back are we? Okay, let's just brush through this. Dreams turn the vision of man around to your unsuspected beliefs because we are possessed by a problem. And we got that problem when we were young and we violated the boundaries. Hey, you can't be gay and be a MAGA. We are going to genocide you or put you into concentration camps or beat you up or shoot you. You violated the rules of the family clan identity. But the figure had to appear knowing, caring, and sincere for us to believe their shit. There are high and low states of mind in dreams. The high becomes the objects of reflection through understanding that we're looking for as the greatest spiritual process or method. And the low becomes exactly the same thing, but to free ourselves from our ignorance or false belief. Therefore, in a nutshell, what we are calling Philadelphia, or what Socrates called... So here's the thing. Socrates called all of these things together philosophical midwifery. Here. Because the analogy he is using is, hey, a midwife gives birth to good ideas, what we call philosophy, and also sick babies that can't survive. And the midwife has to judge both. But, hello, welcome, Uglen, welcome, welcome. So, that's what Socrates calls the whole thing, the love of understanding, because a midwife, which is like his mother, gave birth to healthy and sick babies and could judge. But what we use the word philosophical midwifery for usually is just the dialectic applied to what's false, to uncover the unsuspected false beliefs about ourself and reality that cause all of our human problems. So that's just the part of it. The dialectic applied to what's false, we call midwifery. The dialectic applied to dreams, we call dream analysis. The dialectic applied to truth we call philosophy, and using the dialectic in your conversations with your friends over coffee, cheers, and in whatever art that you make, we call mythology. Just so we know, because Socrates says philosophical midwifery is the name given to the method true philosophers use to overcome ignorance, number one, and gain wisdom that enlightens every man. So both. Overcome ignorance, we call midwifery, and gain wisdom, we call philosophy. But you could say the whole thing Socrates calls philosophical midwifery. It offers the paradigm for understanding human problems, A, and the way to the perfection of the soul, B. It is through it we can discover and confirm for ourselves we are not alone. In other words, this same paradigm of reality, the dialectic, is the paradigm of everything, which is why we need to demand this of political leaders, because a species can only survive if their laws are in harmony or aligned with the laws of reality. You can't feel like you are alone and hostile to the world and make your laws based on that and have a species that survive. So, by the way, dream analysis allows you to make sense of your enlightenment experiences you have in dreams within the terms of your spiritual life. So it's not just a one-off experience, you will have an experience in your dreams within a drama. There's a story, there's a movie you're playing out, which will reflect what you're doing in your everyday life. Now, if you're playing the game, part of your everyday life is what we do here every day. Read one of these books. Master a philosophical text. Master a text that reflects the logos. Therefore, you can make sense of your spiritual experiences, your enlightenment experiences, your higher states of insight and states of mind with reference to how you're going in your reading or how you're going in your midwifery. So it's better than just sitting on a mat or chanting Hare Krishna or taking a load of mushrooms. It's a more complete, or it's the paradigm for the spiritual journey. Isn't that interesting? Dream analysis. Everyone gets a dream. Everyone can play. Now, I just remembered Twitch alerts. I've got to make sure. Oh no, I've got Twitch alerts here. Maybe I've got to move them up. Last time somebody subscribed and I didn't get the picture. Ah, here it is. There we go. It was because I was on the board. Okay, so now I've got Twitch alerts everywhere, so that's good. So I pause to do that. So if Ulglenen wishes to subscribe, then we'll have a little picture that comes up, and that'll be fun. So, right, and then there's a mystery for us to write into our notebooks if you're playing the game. What is involved at Socrates? So this is how you use analogy. You don't just say everything that a midwife of babies does is the same as a philosopher. You selectively pull out the terms because each will have a metaphorical or an analogical equivalent to what we do here. So what are the terms? Detect the early signs of pregnancy. Write that. There should be a philosophical equivalent to giving birth to ideas, insights within the soul. 2, Assist women in the trials and tribulations and trials and difficulties of childbirth. What's the equivalent for souls? That you will master if you fulfill your purpose here and master midwifery. 3. Judge if the birth was true and noble or if it should be abandoned. Oh, what's the equivalent? 4. Pimp it up, baby. Smooth pimping every day. Is that a thing? Smooth pimping? I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of 90s rap. Early 2000s rap. The rappers still talk about pimping. Hooking people up. Know what kinds of relationships would prove beneficial and what sorts of relationships you should avoid. Matchmaking. What's the equivalent for souls? Okay, or as Jesus says, which love unions will bring the rewards of intimacy and which will not. Maybe your friend gets into a relationship with the wrong kinds of guys and her girlfriend saying, why do you always end up with guys like that? He's no good for you. You need to dump his ass. And she does, but she ends up with a guy just like him next time. What's guiding her selection for relationships? Not nothing, because we're noticing a theme. It's the same trash men. That's how girls talk, right? Pathologos. Some model of beauty and unsuspected, taken as obvious. Isn't it common sense that these kinds of guys are the sexiest? Whereas someone who actually has an art would be a better guide for what love unions will bring the rewards and which will not. Which will be a garbage man. Dump that garbage ass to the curb. Noble art. Okay, in dreams, there's an image of the self that you identify with. You think it's you. It ain't you. And we'll come to see why it can't be you as we continue to read. The drama has an analog to the unsuspected problem in the present world, and the dreamer can present a solution to one's problem, and that solution will be central to your spiritual life. It's not overcoming a problem that makes you, hey, I like to kick puppies and I get a sore toe. That's not a problem, because that's not your spiritual goals. So make sure you're reading one of these books. And we do it every day here. Okay, we're not aware of the masks we wear, and the irony is, the more that we try and be our best, most good, most beautiful, if our model for what's most best and beautiful and good is terrible, then we might be shooting ourselves in the foot. The way we function to achieve our goals may defeat our best efforts and bring us ruin. He also mentions, by the way, people seek what they think is good. Even the people with the biggest problems, the Netanyahus and the Trumps and the Putins of the world, they think it's good. They're just fucking ignorant as all shit. Which means they haven't reflected on who taught them what's good, who taught them how to be a sneaky bastard, who taught them how to be a grifter, who taught them how to be a racist, who taught them how to be a mass murderer. They're still imitating a model of good. Thus the need to do dream analysis and reflect on our earliest teachers. Okay, so we set before us the most ideal circumstances. What's the best way you can read and review? I say subscribe to this channel and devote ourselves to mastery of some profound task, such as reading one of the works of the sages. And we read them all here, the good ones. Okay. Surfacing unsuspected problems is a spiritual knowledge, and it always benefits and nurtures the soul. The maker of dreams is the dream maker. And it's from, we burn it. I did incense today because we read this last time. I got incense, but it's out. When I pause, top up my coffee, I'm going to top up my incense stick. We reflect even on the dream maker. And it's from these kinds of reflections we can conclude that we are part of a caring and intelligible cosmos. Because our dreams are the most caring and intelligible. And also that we participate in and become in union with it. So that's the mystery. How exactly do we participate in the intelligibility and care of the universe and realize we're not alone and realize it's a friendly world? Eternally loving world. That's the mystery of participation. One thing that we are discovering is the more that we participate in dream analysis, the more we bring our mind to the mind of the dream maker. So we're becoming like it. Likeness. The more we read these texts, not just read it, but look for the structure behind the thought of the author, or the structure of the thought behind Socrates in this dialogue, then we are becoming like the mind of Socrates. Same. Likeness. That's the mystery. How does participation work exactly? Recognize we are part of a caring cosmos through dreams. Mind seeks to know the mind. Whereas there's no participation in belief systems or theistic systems. So you can participate in the higher, you can go through spiritual development and growth and evolution in philosophy or philodianoia, love of understanding. You can't in religion or theistic systems, because theistic systems has God as its highest point. Truth and philosophy has self, which is you, meaning you can participate in it because it is you. Whereas God, it can be different and scary and mean and different from you, and you just have to believe. No participation. Give your money, only associate with the limits that we impose upon you, and then that's it. No participation, no growth, no development. It's stagnant. That's why they can only break. They can't make. They can't grow. They can't actually help. So whenever anyone says, "Can I pray for you?" Fuck off. No. No. If you do have an effect, it's only going to be a negative one. That's a theistic system of belief. Because belief requires a breaking of creation, a breaking of participation. How dare you say you're the same as Jesus, or you are the mind of God, or yourself is beyond even the divine maker. It is, by definition. You're a heathen. Burn her, she's a witch. And fundamentally, you have to teach a fear of ousia and logos, self-reflection of understanding, to join a group based on belief. If you understand something, why the fuck would you believe anyone else? If you can do it yourself, why would you join a group of people with all of their limitations? So, fundamental, as Jesus is to Socrates, so is limitation and stagnation and blocks to participation and growth. So is breakers to makers. Sadism, the enjoyment of the destruction of good things because you've associated it with knowing because of an imitation of someone who did it to you. Sadism to genuine intelligibility and providence, genuine understanding and care. Functioning as a bad, destructive person, functioning as a good, beneficial person. Vice and virtue. That's simple. That's simple. But one of the puzzles is, if it's so obvious and simple, why is it so hard to tell people? We carry that as we read. So, participation is alien to theistic systems of belief. Yep. Okay, there are some holes. Okay, for all the words that have been spun, there is a huge hole in it. The mystery is the fact that all of the ideas that cause our physical world can be inferred from the experience of the divine luminosity, which we call eidos. I'm going to say eidos because that's the Greek. The English equivalent is idea with a capital I, but I'm not going to say capital I. It's too many syllables. I'm going to say eidos. In beholding the light, we can infer from it a set of eidos ideas as the causes of the manifestation of the physical world or becoming. If we become receptive to those eidos, we can become open to it. Openness is the condition for a kind of goodness to emerge. That goodness directly assists one to grasp and understand ousia and logos, knowledge, nous, and understanding, dianoia, nous, dianoia, ousia, logos, grasping and understanding, the very eidos. This openness and this wisdom. Oh, by the way, the two of those together, we are calling from this book wisdom. Mentioned earlier. It's a force that shapes the soul for vision. The openness, and that's what we develop at. By the way, we're carrying that question. What's the state of mind of understanding? Well, if understanding is the stepping stone to nous and wisdom, and he's saying, the openness is a condition for goodness to emerge, and it has a force that shapes the soul for vision. Can one of the features of the state of mind of understanding be openness? Ooh. Ooh. Maybe we should have a page in our notebook for all of these quotes that point to what it would feel like to be an understanding. And we can add openness in there. Shapes the soul for vision. Goodness that reaches out and benefits all uniquely, we can call providence. So, flip over your notebook or your document and have a new title, Providence, capital P. One of the aspects of reality that we're looking for the clues for, like the video game, that can unlock insight into reality because it's one of the eidos, providence. Ultimate reality isn't cruel or indifferent, it's actively caring for you in the best possible way. Providence. Wouldn't you want to know that you live in a providential universe? Make a page for providence. And add this quote, a goodness that reaches out to all and benefits each uniquely. What does that mean? All parts, the whole. Uniquely specific to the parts. All pervasive but precise. Whole and parts. How interesting. How interesting that the nature of the cosmos that we're in has this care, intelligible care that's all pervasive but precise. All encompassing but directly specific to you. Has the power and reach or scope over everything, but has the meticulous precision of a surgeon. Providence. The goodness is essential to the divine luminosity, and its vitality and joyous way of being unveils what is noble and true. So, In that experience of divine luminosity, you see that there is a life. It's not a dead thing. It's the most vital thing, the most alive. And it's joyous, not sad. You're not upset you live in a cruel, sadistic world. No, joyous. And it's that vitality and joyousness that unveils what is noble and true. What does that mean? Sounds good. Not sure. Carrying it with us as we read. Let's reference this experience that we can recognize images from shadows. So as we are learning to become midwives ourselves, we want to distinguish good births and sick births, or actual understanding or images of reality from mere shadows. Ooh. Do people playing out their ignorant beliefs, going out killing non-believers or starving the poor or whatever the fuck they're doing, do they think they're doing good? Do they think they're being true and noble? Do the ICE members beating up brown people or killing brown people or sending them to concentration camps or slave labor camps, do they feel very justified? Big, tall, tough man. I'm a big, strong, tough guy. Shadow. And an experience of reality with this understanding that can recognize that it's providential, vital, joyous, can be a referent against which you can notice, oh, you've got a problem. You're carrying a shadow of reality. So it's one thing to behold the good as divine luminosity, and also it's quite another thing to go to the good itself. So even that luminosity that's providential, joyous, vital, has a goodness that benefits all and uniquely, even that is the penultimate level of reality. Because it's one thing to have that goodness, and it's another thing to go to the good itself. We can make a similar contrast to those who have only experienced divine luminosity and those who have encountered the good itself. So now we've got a bit of a clue here. We have some language that we can use. You can't say you experience the good itself if it's the cause of experience. You can't say you experienced it if it's beyond experience. You can't say you experienced it if it's the thing that's doing the experiencing, if it's the self. But we can use the word encounter. Thank you, author. That's helpful. If one encountered that state of the good or the self or the one, it would be impossible to believe the good or the one is the creator. Because to be a creator, you'd have to have certain qualities. And this is the cause of qualities. Now, it's not a negation, it's not nihilism. So a lot of problems with Eastern religions come down to the fact that they are confusing negation from transcendence. It's not that it's a lack of existence. See, look, for there to be a creator God, like, you know, a lot of even religions believe in, well, the God has to have some kind of existence from which to create, some sort of power to use to create, some sort of activity of creation. And usually they reflect on their creation and say, and then God reflected on his creation and said it was good. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff, reflection, judgment against a model of goodness. It's a whole bunch of stuff there. A manyness. Each of those things have a kind of oneness. Therefore, there are certain principles that have to exist prior. One thing called power, one thing called activity. What's the cause of that one? Some kind of existence. What's the cause of existence? All of these qualities coming together in a unity of the Creator God. What's the condition for unity? For oneness. One? Therefore, we're looking for something that, by the way, it's not negating all those things. If these are the highest kinds of functionings of the Creator God or being, whatever caused them has to have somehow those qualities within it in a higher manner. We create things that are like ourselves. Right? For hot things to make things hot, like for fire to make something hot, it has to have heat. But the creator of the art or the creator of things has to have it in a better sense, in a higher sense, in a transcendent sense, for it to overflow and create according to a likeness to itself. So the one or the good or the self that we're after, know thyself, has pure existence, has pure power, has this creative activity in a transcendent, different kind. In other words, not as qualities, but something different. That's the mystery of the one or the self. That's why you can't say we experience it. The cause of the qualities that you experience as experiences. So, if somebody encountered the state of the one, so there is a state. So even though it's not an experience, you can keep it as a state of self. That's interesting. Whereas the divine luminosity you can't hold on to. The saying that Pierre would say is, you can't be in that state of luminosity and be driving your car. And so people would joke, yeah, better make sure you pull over to the side of the road. Another thing was, if you're in that state of luminosity and you're eating a hamburger, you wouldn't know where to stop and you start eating your hand. So one of the puzzles is, hey, if you have a choice of both, an experience which, has those limitations, but in certain ways, or its cause, why would you choose one over the other? If there is a state of the one itself that we don't experience, but we encounter, Pierre would say, you can have that state. You can have, he would say, you can have your coffee and drink it too. Cheers. Now, does that help us in our other question? What's the state of understanding? Because later he says it's the shadow of something pure and clear, not blissful and everything all at once, and illuminating and intense and joyous. Is understanding a shadow of this state of the oneself that we don't experience but encounter, and maybe we can keep as a way of being in this life and beyond, having fulfilled our purpose to ultimately know thyself? What a fucking brilliant question. Which leads to the other question we're carrying. How good was that question we just asked? In terms of possible questions human beings can ask themselves, this question from this book, how would you rank it? You can play Silent Hill, and there are puzzles to solve, and they're pretty cool. You can play Resident Evil, and there are puzzles, and especially the early games, they're pretty cool too. There are other games that have puzzles that are a bit boring. In other words, you can rank puzzles. You can complete games and have a sense of fulfillment having solved the puzzles of the entire game. You can watch movies. Some are boring puzzles. How is Ethan Hunt going to solve the Mission Impossible? Some are better puzzles. How is Leonardo DiCaprio going to get out of Inceptions? How is Tennant going to go do the temporal pincer movement in the Tenet? Those are more interesting puzzles to solve and more interesting movies to solve as a whole or a complete solving of then how's John Diehard going to shoot all the bad guys? I can answer that with his goddamn gun. Less interesting puzzles. Now, this puzzle of this game / movie / text, how interesting is this puzzle to solve? What puzzle? What is the state of mind of understanding, which is the cognitive function that all human beings or all sentient species at our level of development is supposed to move into, from caveman, savage, zombie belief-based thinking and group-based identity? Therefore, the purpose for all of us, necessary to solve your problems and help your friends and the world, necessary to understand its cause and reach higher dimensions of reality, understand not just the meaning of your life, but the meaning of all lives. What's that state of mind? A kind of learning and nurture that you can take with you to escape the chains of problems and the prison of reincarnation? To join Socrates with better men and gods and daemons than you find here, who are fellow guides and travelers? What is that state, so that we can get it and recognize it and master it and perfect it? How important is that question compared to Resident Evil and Silent Hill and Inception and Tenet and Die Hard? If you solve it, how fulfilled would you feel having left the theater or completed rolled credits on the game or answered that question from this book? The accompanying question: what's the difference of experience, the highest fucking experience any human being can experience, knowing mind itself as pure being? What's the difference between that and its cause, which is the self or the one or the good? How cool is that question? Seriously though. And the accompanying question: if this is the greatest experience, what word can we use to talk about this thing, which has to transcend experience? Isn't that a wicked question? I think so. What do you think, Owen?
What?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you think, Emma?
What feminists want is to do a poggers.
Okay. Feminists want to do a poggers. Isn't this the most poggers? What do you think, RM?
I find that very entertaining.
See? Super entertaining. What do you think, Oracle?
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Right, we come away with an improvement for the better after solving this. Soundboard for the win today. And having answered that question, or not completely answered it, but a bit of a clue, you can experience divine luminosity, but you can encounter the good itself. So now we've got a word for it: encounter versus experience. What would be the difference? And by following that question, trying to solve this Inception movie or this Silent Hill game, we've got this other idea that's come to birth for us, that there is a state of the oneself. Meaning, it's not a, like all experiences. By the way, this is Plotinus's pop problem. There was a philosopher that came after Socrates, who also, I think he taught the head teacher at the academy before the Emperor Justinian, and the Paulines, they're not Christians, they're Paulines, murdered the philosophers and shut down the academy. His name was Plotinus, and he had this divine luminosity experience, and he was pissed. What did I deserve to fall out of divine luminosity? In other words, if it's an experience, it has a beginning, middle, and end, as all experiences do. But the state of the oneself. Hey, welcome. Welcome, Golden-Eyed. Pause for a second to see all of the emojis. We have Pikachu twerking, Squirtle playing the sax, and Magikarp doing some sort of dance. Splash dance. We have Raichu grooving away. Eevee taking notes. Good on Eevee. Taking notes. That's the game. Taking notes from the text. Is that another Eevee? And a owl. Now, I'm not familiar with Pokemon after the first generation. I don't know who... Is that Hooter? Hoot? I'm guessing probably his name's Hoot something. Just from guessing based on how Pokemon are named after the first generation. Because I know that there's a garbage Pokemon named Garbageor or something like that. We have Jigglypuff. Oh, the owl is Rowlet. Okay. I was off with Hoot. Does Rowlet have a form where Hoot is in his name? Like an evolved form? I can sing the Jigglypuff song. Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff. Rowlet. So, that question that's come to birth. If it's an experience, you fall out of it. You end it. There's an end to an experience. But if there is a state of the one itself, which is also the self according to this text, then can there be a state of self knowing thyself, from which you don't have to drop, of which you can nurture and keep and take with you in this life, in the next, in any planet you happen to be on, in any time, in any space. Not only that, in any dimension. Take that state of being self with you to the next game that Socrates is at with, according to the Phaedo, better men than you find here, humans than you find here who've completed their work here, and also gods and daemons that are fellow travelers and guides on a further journey. So somebody said, oh, you know, maybe I will want to... Hoot is in the evolved form for Rowlet. Ah, okay, it's not. Oh well. I want to reincarnate because, you know, I don't want to be bored. It ain't boring. This is one of the things talked about in the Phaedo. People fear death, but Socrates says, why? You don't know what death is. To understand death is one of the goals in philosophy. Mind knowing itself as mind itself, people have in near-death experiences, to a degree. That's why they don't fear death. Recognizing soul as the immortal soul. Therefore, if there is some sort of learning that we're here to do, wouldn't we want to use it or function with it in a higher way, in a way that transcends all physical experience and the way we normally apply language, which is normally relative? Whole and part go together. Same and different. Everything you see, this stuffy is the same as this stuffy in that it's a stuffy, but it's different in that this is a unicorn and this is a baby chicken. Same and different. And we've seen that we can use these terms for understanding. Believers are in conflict between these pairs. And divine luminosity has them both together. The whole of all parts. But is there a different use that isn't bound to these relativistic pairs? And is that part of understanding? Is that why understanding is greater even than enlightenment or knowledge? If we are going through this process of development to master the dialectic and master understanding, why? Why unfold from the self into being, into the world of becoming, only to be forced upon us because of what it means to be human, a pathologos, that's the cause of human problems, in a world currently where no goddamn idiots, when hardly anyone has realized this, and everyone thinks they know, thinks they are thinking properly, thinks they know truth and reality, and is just playing out the ignorance and the injustice in their relationships towards themselves and in the fucking world of their problems, blindly. And then our problem, why is it so hard to talk about this? You say this and then they get mad. But they don't get mad, it helps you. Shut up. Why go through all of that only to necessarily develop the dialectic and dianoia needed to solve the problems, needed to evolve back through participation, needed for true loving relationships, needing for the true rewards of intimacy, needed to get back to being, and not just the removal of beliefs to participate in true reality, the removal of the false image of self and reality so you can participate in reality, but you also had to master understanding as the process of removing beliefs, which is needed because once you're in being, you better understand it. But also understanding is needed to make sense of it and can be applied to the state beyond it, making understanding a level of cognitive function greater even than goddamn enlightenment or pure knowledge. Why go through that process if the dialectic, the self-logos, or understanding isn't useful after we've escaped this process of falling into ignorance and forgetfulness and injustice and suffering, only to recover what we lost to go back? Giving us the necessary conditions to develop understanding, why wouldn't understanding be useful? In other words, it doesn't just end. You've got a ticket, a golden ticket, to a better game that you can then use that functioning of understanding from that state of the one itself. Doesn't end, it just gets better. Is the implications that we can see from this kind of reflection. Implications that you can never come to through belief, because it's a fear of the mind. You can never even have these experiences, and it's a fear of rationality. You could never reflect in this way. But by being in this game, we can come to these hypotheses that we can test for ourselves. As Socrates says, if you're a true philosopher, meet me to where I am. And go as fast as you can. Literally, that was his final words. And then sacrifice a cock to the god Asclepius, the god of healing. Meet me where I am, as fast as you can, and if you do so, you've healed yourself. Meaning we're here to heal. So when people say, "Oh, I want to reincarnate because I like the experiences." What? Just as, "Oh, I feared." What? And this is key. The fact that there is a state of the oneself, not an experience of divine luminosity. That's key. So if and as we've seen, the highest superlatives, the best use of logos or language is used to describe divine luminosity. Look at the words we've been collecting so far. Pure being, bliss, beauty itself, justice itself, goodness, providence, intelligibility. You don't have higher words than this. Ultimate reality. Ultimate is an ultimate word. But it's not it. It's still an experience. It's the greatest, but still an experience. Who's having the experience? What caused the experience? What's the significance of the experience? How do you understand the experience? Therefore, what? Well, we're looking for the state of being called understanding. What's that state, a feeling state, to be in understanding, to be functioning with the cognitive function of understanding, given that it's the purpose of every human being. It is the next stage of evolution. Belief-based thinking, and we see all the groups bound by belief, MAGA belief, Nazi belief, blah, 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 Abrahamic beliefs, Christian beliefs, Muslim beliefs, Mormon beliefs, you name it, they're all in conflict and they're all fucking wrong and harmful to understanding. Understand how to fix a toaster, understand how to fix an engine, understand the nature of beauty and justice for our soul and our world. Understanding. What's it like to be there? We know what it's like to be a believer. Conflict. Substituting crushing, breaking, sadism for knowledge. Imitating the same injustice we suffered from childhood. But what's this one? And if it's a state, would it reflect the experience of divine luminosity, or could it be a state that reflects the state of one itself? Is it different from the state of the one itself? Is it the shadow? Shadow and reflection has been a repeating theme. As we read earlier. It's the we are to recognize images of reality from mere shadows. The appearance of justice, the appearance of virtue is the cause of vice. That's what made our parental figures believable when we accepted the pathologos. We created the belief, so we can undo it. So we are our own cause in a sense. Can we use that theme? So what are we doing? We've been carrying a question in our reading. What the heck is this state of being called understanding? And how can we use the text to create hypotheses that might answer that question? And my question right now is, how fucking cool is that question? Of all puzzles to solve, what is the puzzle of the state of understanding? So that we can stay in it, perfect it, master it, always, forever. And how does it relate to the state of encountering of the encounter and the state of the one itself? Two good questions. Here's a third. What's it feel like to be in divine luminosity or bliss? What's the experience of divine luminosity? Four neat questions, right? Here's a fifth. What's the relationship between the experience of divine luminosity and the encounter of the good itself? How awesome are these questions? Very different from inception or even religion. What's the questions they ask? How do I pray harder? Well, you don't really ask questions, do you? What's the saying? God was busy making a hell for people like you who ask questions. Not a question. You can't answer them because it's, by definition, they are impossible beliefs. Therefore, it rejects rationality. Therefore, can only break. Therefore, sadistic. No questions, because there are no questions. It's not rational. And no answers as well. Therefore, perpetual conflict or restlessness. But how good are these questions? Have I mentioned this book's a banger? Let's catch up with the chat. I'm a bit behind. Death is a transcendence from one state to another. In chat. I think most people fear what's beyond and the act of dying. Yeah, and Socrates says, why do you fear something you don't understand? You don't fear death. You have a fear of what you've been told to believe about death from people who don't understand. By the way, why not understand it? In the Phaedo, Socrates says, the separation from your physical senses, collecting your soul together, separating from your body, collecting yourself together outside the body. For a length of time. And maybe using that freedom from your senses to do philosophy. That's death. But it's also the exercise of philosophy. Because we're not understanding the physical world. By definition, philosophy is understanding the realm of being. Where's our picture? Here. Philomathesis, loving learning. In the physical world, philosophy is the study of being. Dianoia isn't understanding how many beans there are in China, it's understanding these aspects, or eidos, of being. And it's a spiritual practice in that you go there. Every single yoga has as its root the goal to separate your consciousness or soul or psyche from your physical senses. That's what it means, yoga. So instead of fearing the beliefs that you get from jerks and robes and stuff and your parents, first understand death, experience it, and then decide whether it's scary. How do you feel about kids remembering their past reincarnations? Yeah, we talked about that a couple episodes ago. Fine. Nothing against it. Not needed though, because our pathologos here, you know how we were talking about perfection? That perfection isn't some flawless ideal. It's recognizing that you are a perfect expression or representation of all the forces upon your soul up until this point. That includes, because we come into this, because every pathologos is unique, even children who are in the middle of the same experience come away with different pathologos, meaning you're bringing into this world with your soul a perfect representation of all of your reincarnations, which means two things. Well, it means that, it means, in essence, you have everything you need in your pathologos to solve all of the puzzles that you've been accumulating over your past incarnations. So it's not necessary. In fact, I asked Pierre about this once, and he says, well, you know what's better than that? Instead of thinking about your past lives, focus on your next life. And as we've been talking about in the Phaedo, to dwell eternally with the gods, to be with better gods and men than you find here. People have completed their journey here to keep going on their journey. Or escaping the chains of problems and suffering and escaping the prison of reincarnation. Yep, and there are experiences of people remembering things from past lives, yeah. Why not enjoy the experiences of incarnation? Because it's shit compared to why go through torture and sadism and ignorance and suffering and injustice when you can have a much better time? Why not go on this journey with better men and gods and daemons? Why experience what's fake or a shadow of reality? Why not experience reality? If our learning has been the study of being, why hear about a great party and not go to the party yourself? Or here's the expression, you don't send your slave to the feast or the orgy. Aren't they sorts of things that you want to experience yourself? People look so forward to death and reincarnation instead of being in the now. You'll think to the future as if the present isn't good enough. Sounds like people take it for granted. That's what we're doing. So we're making the best of here. If we are here to learn something specifically to address our pathologos by developing the art of understanding, but also as we've discovered, hey, this state of understanding has a state. It's not an experience like being at the party. Because even the party, even bliss, even pure beauty, there's an end to the party. You'll go home at the end of the night. But is this state of understanding permanent? And how does it relate to the state of the one self? And if our job is to, from the unfolding into different dimensions or levels of reality, we can return, like in yoga, to here, But in philosophy or philomathesis, beyond even being, what's the state you'd be in if you... What's the needed state to participate in this party? Because we've been reading in the text. Right here. Just read it. The ideas are inferred from the divine luminosity, like being, beauty, whole part. In beholding the light of pure being, we can infer from it a set of ideas as the primary cause of our world. In other words, the aspects of being is needed for the Creator God to create our physical world. Meaning this is more real. We are in a kind of imitation or creation or shadow of being. Becoming receptive to these influences, to the influences of beauty and goodness and justice, makes one open to it. This openness is the condition for a kind of goodness to emerge that directly assists one to grasp and understand these very ideas. To grasp it or experience it, and to understand the ideas of being that's the cause of our world. So we're carrying the idea of openness as one of the possible aspects of the state of being called understanding, the cognitive functioning of understanding. It has a force. This openness has a force and this goodness that shapes the soul for that vision. So we are creating the conditions for that experience of what's more real. Surely you would agree that the world that, by the way, if you still feel like, nah, I reckon it's better to stay in the physical world. Who told you that? In other words, you're right. If you believe that this is a less real level of reality and this is a less real level of reality and wherever this goes is less real, then sure, you can hold on to what's false. Every MAGA and Nazi has held on to what's false. That's the nature of belief. And that's what Socrates says in the symposium, in the Phaedo. Don't believe me. None of this stuff. Don't believe any of it. Because you know what's going to happen is, if I'm convincing you by a belief, then someone's going to come along and they're going to give you a belief that sounds like your mummy or daddy or sounds like your Abrahamic religion. And they're going to convince you to reject what I have been saying, which is true, and go back to your beliefs. Which gives you two things. First of all, you've lost what's true because you only believed me and you didn't behold it for yourself and understand it for yourself. You're still a believer. So you're going to lose that. But also, after you go back to your ignorant beliefs from childhood that you've never reflected on, you're going to think, well, philosophy is bad. Look, it tricked me. Socrates is a jerk. The Logos is bad because it just convinced me to what I now believe is wrong. And Socrates says that's the worst state you can be in. To hate or fear understanding is the absolute worst condition of the soul that you always have to be on guard for. Therefore, philosophy is not about belief. I know modern philosophy is about belief. I know most people who come into this channel say, well, I believe this philosopher. I believe that philosopher. And I say, that's not philosophy. That's love of belief or philodoxia, love of opinions. And they go, oh, okay. And then they leave. That's our question. One of the questions we're carrying today is, what's the state of mind of understanding? But also, why is it so hard to communicate what's so good and true and obvious and important? One of it is our blind allegiance to belief and to think that philosophy is belief. I fear death. You don't fucking fear death. You have a belief about death. That's scary. I think philosophy is about that. No, that's a belief about philosophy. Philosophy isn't a manyness. It's just this. Just one thing. But that's the role of Aristotle. Aristotle put a line here and no further. Only the physical world, only the natural world. And so we get modern science, modern empiricism. We can build nuclear bombs and hand grenades, but we're just using it to hurt each other because we haven't addressed our beliefs and we haven't looked at the cause of justice and beauty. And we haven't addressed what we're here for, the meaning of life. Because we're listening to Aristotle, who never did midwifery and never did dream analysis. And we're seeing the significance of both here today. So you don't believe me, don't believe any of this. Turn it into a question. If that question can make you wonder, you can go from your pathologos ignorance or belief-based ignorance, where you have no questions, so it's a question with a Ghostbusters line through it, to openness and curiosity or being stung. Oh yeah, maybe this world is a shadow. Maybe this isn't the ultimate reality. Maybe it sucks living in capitalism and fascism, and maybe there's a dimension where the stupidest people like Trump and Netanyahu and Putin aren't the leaders. Maybe that's a better place. Question. Have a question. Be curious. Find what makes you most curious, because that can take you out of your ignorance for at least a time, and then you do midwifery to solve this, and then you no longer have ignorance. Because if you carry a question, you can do what we're doing now. Read the text and look for the right opinions. So all of the quotes that we're having, like these ones here. Our question today one of our questions today is, what's the state of mind, the feeling state of understanding? So that when we read, because we've got a question, we come across this. Openness is a condition for goodness to remain. Oh, openness. We'll take that as a clue. There's a difference between beholding the good as divine luminosity and it's another thing to go to the good itself. We'll take that as a clue. You experience luminosity, but you encounter the good. Another clue. You can encounter the state of the oneself. Oh, there's a state. Another clue. The one is beyond the creator God because the creator has to have these qualities. It has to have a power to create, an activity of creation, an existence. And the one is beyond qualities. Oh, all of these are clues that we are now collecting from reading this book. That's right opinion. We've gone from being open and curious. Today we started by creating 4 questions that we carry. That puts us here. Takes us out of our ignorance. I know better, mummy said so. And now we're reviewing and we're collecting the right opinions. But from that, we talk about it with each other and we arrange these right opinions. That's understanding. And one of our questions is, what's it feel like to be going through this? How is it different from saying, no, I know better? How is it different from this state of ignorance? How is understanding even different from this? What's the state of being of understanding? And what we've just read is, hey, by the way, what we are doing now in arranging our right opinions from that state of openness creates the conditions for providence and insight into pure being and bliss. That's knowledge. That's nous. That's participation in being. But what we just read is, hey, that's not the end, because it's one thing to experience the divine luminosity, but it's quite another higher and better thing to encounter the good itself. Which means there has to be a role for understanding even that experience. Bringing us back to what is the state of mind of understanding such that it's higher than enlightenment, and we can hold on to it maybe, whereas if this is an experience, it has an end, so you can't hold on to that forever. And how does this state of being of understanding relate to the state of the self. That's the game. It's reading. You may never try to experience what Apple is again. Mass extinction. You'll never see a species of bird again. People are not making things better right now. So yeah, that's the idea. If we also, what we're saying, hey, even though we can go beyond knowledge, it's in this experience that we can see with understanding that there is a paradigm of reality. That's the logos, through which, and it's if we can share in the logos, if we can align ourselves in the logos, we can participate in the logos, and if we participate in the logos, we can get providence. Providence, we were just reading. There is a goodness that reaches out to all. Through what? That benefits each uniquely. That's providence. The goodness is essential to the divine luminosity as its vitality and joyous way of being unveils what is noble and good. So if there's a goodness or care that reaches out to benefits all, there has to be some structure through which it reaches out. So therefore, if we want providence, if we want to be benefited or care or experience divine care, we better share in that structure so that we can get that divine providence. The understanding of that structure is the understanding of what is the aspects of being. Wisdom, the experience and the understanding of that, the intelligibility of that. For us individually, therefore, we can align ourselves to the logos in a soul to be open and receptive to providence, but also every single lawmaker and spiritual leader fucking better, and we better always demand they have that themselves. Because if we do not align our souls to the logos, we won't develop. Therefore, you're not a spiritual leader if you don't have logos. But if politicians do not use the paradigm of the intelligibility of reality, the logos, for the model or paradigm of human laws, then our human society and functioning will be in disharmony with, will be opposed to the laws of the cosmos, the laws of reality, and therefore we fucking go extinct. All of this left-wing bullshit, the current left-wing politicians saying, oh, let Trump have his fun with a little bit of genocide. Let Netanyahu do a little bit of genocide. Let Putin do a little bit of murder. Let the billionaires do a little bit of enslavement. Fuck off. You can't do that. Because that's not a principle. A little bit of badness isn't universal and beneficial. It's hypocrisy. We need every politician to have wisdom of the logos, because if we don't align our human society to justice itself, then we are in disalignment with the laws of the cosmos, and you know what happens? Those species go extinct. If we give a shit about our human species, we need to do our work that we're doing here to get this, and also demand it from anyone in power. Ironically, the people in power are the most blocked from that because they're all Abrahamics. They're all pathologos ridden. They're all sexists and MAGAists and Zionists. They're all identified with a group based on belief. And you know what groups based on belief do? They reject understanding. They fear the mind, and they fear the rational approach to the mind, and therefore they hate and fear wisdom. That's why they're sadistic. That's why they can only break. Wisdom is needed for making, for alignment, for our soul and for our species. Beliefs can only break and destroy and hurt. So every politician that says, well, it's my belief, every single report out, I'll stop you there, pal. You don't let a surgeon do surgery based on beliefs. You demand understanding and knowledge. You don't let a pilot fly a plane based on beliefs. Why the fuck would we let a politician rule our society based on beliefs? I don't care if you're pretending to be a folksy guy like all the Republicans. Well, damn there, well, I just use common sense. Well, I just use common sense back from the farm. You're a liar. You're not a farmer. You're a billionaire trying to pretend to be a farmer. Well, I just believe in Jesus. You're a liar. You're not a Christian. You're manipulating other Christians by appealing to their beliefs. Cut it out. Always. We need to always demand from every single reporter, every single citizen, our job. Our job as citizens is to demand wisdom, apprehension of reality, knowledge, with understanding of it, to derive the logos or the intelligible pattern of the cosmos so that our societal laws can reflect it and be in alignment with it. Otherwise, we go extinct. And we lose the things you're saying, apples and birds and things. If you don't care about saving our species, fine. You're just not qualified for the job of politician. If you don't care for animals, you can't be a vet. If you don't care for the people on the plane, you can't be a fucking pilot. If you do not care for the souls of humanity, you can't be a politician or a spiritual leader. If you are not actively doing philosophical midwifery to remove what blocks you from intelligence and providence, care, then you're not qualified, ever. If you're not doing what we do here in philosophy, to go through these cognitive functions, looking for the questions, openness and being stung, going through the text itself to get the right opinions, putting them together into an intelligible structure called the dialectic, preparing your mind for that experience, and then reflecting on that experience with that understanding to derive the intelligible paradigm of justice. If you're not doing that, you're not fucking qualified. Get out. I don't care if you like killing Palestinians. I don't care if you like crushing the poor. Get the fuck out. Always, every citizen has to say this every day. Every journalist, every reporter. If you're not actively seeking wisdom, you're not qualified, because wisdom is the understanding, the logos, the pattern, and providence. If you do not care for your subjects, you're not qualified for the job. It's just that fucking simple. Our question today is, how is it so difficult to communicate that which is so simple and obvious and needed with other human beings? It's one of our questions. Why is it so difficult to say this? Why is there only one podcast, this one, saying this? That's a question. This helps everyone. It helps you. Even those sadists are going to be helped. It doesn't fucking help you to get more entrenched in your ignorance by debate, by killing non-believers, by converting people. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help our species. That's okay. It's okay if, look, just because you are not a master mechanic doesn't mean you can't benefit by taking your car to a mechanic. You will benefit if a mechanic can fix your car. Don't get butthurt, but I want to be a mechanic. You can. Just do the work. But I want to be a leader. But I want to be a priest. But I want to be a preacher. Then do the fucking work. But no, but I also want to keep my family beliefs and my Abrahamic beliefs. Then you can't. You can't have both. You can't enjoy killing animals and be a vet. You have to sacrifice one. You can't have belief and be a politician or a spiritual leader. You have to sacrifice one. You can't refuse to go through this process that we are doing on this channel through reading and also be a politician or a spiritual person, spiritual leader. You have to sacrifice one. You can't be a good citizen for humanity and not demand this. You have to sacrifice one. You can be a loyal family member, a loyal sexist, a loyal Zionist, a loyal Abrahamic, a loyal whatever the fuck, but you're not a good citizen. You're in sickness, by definition. And as you're saying in chat, yeah, if we don't demand this, take this, this is our call to action.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
In every hero's journey, there is someone who comes along and says to Harry Potter, go to Hogwarts, says to Luke Skywalker, learn the Jedi way of the Force. That says to Frodo, you need to return the ring. You need to escape the safety of the Shire to go on a journey of development. You need to become a good person. Every single hero's journey has this. Which, and philosophy, we see, hey, look, if there is a universal principle that has a manyness, we have to look, what's the cause? What's the archetype? What's the ideal? What's the paradigm? This very conversation. You have to be a Jedi. You have to be a good citizen, which means you have to go through the process of learning philosophical midwifery, going through... We good? You have to go through the process of doing midwifery and learning midwifery, number one. And you have to go through this kind of reading to be a good person and ruler of yourself, because that will overcome your suffering, your problems, your blocks, and it will allow you to reach your highest feeling states, state of mind and functioning. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win. But you have to sacrifice your comfort of the Shire, of the moisture farm, of living under the stairs of the evil step-parents in Harry Potter. You won't want to, but I want to be a sexist, but I want to be a Christian, but I want to be a Mormon. You don't. You've been convinced that you want that because you've been fucking lied to. Every multi-level marketing scheme, every Abrahamic religion, every religion or anything based on belief, every single family is lying because they haven't done this. No one wants their suffering. No one wants their problems. No one wants their ignorance. No one wants to not experience fucking bliss. There is a lie at the heart of every single human problems. Therefore, it's not a blame game. It's not a shame game. It's not defend your beliefs so you don't get arrested. Bullshit. That's just our society. If you're wrong, then you get punished. Fuck off with punishment. We are all wrong. We all have a responsibility to find out what was the cause of our being wrong, to seek mistakes, to go on this journey through these stages of reading and all of your problems and false beliefs and everything you're certain about, that you're wrong about. Everything that says don't read the book, do something else. All of these things will surface, but these are the wrong opinions. As you read the book to get the right opinions, you also surface the wrong opinions that block your logos, block your development, block understanding, block enlightenment. And you, just as we're doing now, arranging these quotes or right opinions in a structure to answer our questions, the questions, quotes or clues, and then structure them in the dialectic. So too is philosophical midwifery. Once you've got a question about all of these blocks, you can then organize them, guided by a philosophical midwife, to not gain enlightenment, but gain freedom, clarity, freedom from your ignorance and suffering, freedom from your negative states of mind, freedom from the internal negative self-chatter. A freedom that then you can use to go on the higher journey through here. So midwifery is the exact opposite or inversion of reading. Or the dialectic applied to what's false, just as in reading we apply the dialectic to what's true. Everyone has a moral and ethical responsibility as a good citizen to be doing this. Not only to be doing this, but try and understand it. Not just go through midwifery to become free, but learn the process itself. Learn midwifery. You might not do it every day, but learn it at least. And learn this. Not just read the way we're doing, but learn the structure of reading. Not because you might be a teacher, but because every citizen needs to have at least enough of an understanding of this and this to demand from every fucking politician, every spiritual leader, that they are doing it. You don't have to be a mechanic, but you demand your mechanic have no false beliefs about engines. Oh, I have to put water in your oil tank because the Bible says so. Fuck off with that. You can't do that. You can't have these stupid beliefs about cars from childhood or from religion and be a mechanic. You have to sacrifice one. And also, you can't fix a car unless you have knowledge of the ideal of how the engine's supposed to be, the ideal, and understanding of its parts so you can function to help cars. Same thing for flying a plane, same thing for doing surgery. We as citizens must demand the exact same standard of rationality for politicians and spiritual leaders. If we don't, their false beliefs that cause their internal problems will play out in the world. Palestine, death camps in America, Gestapo ICE agents, starvation, child slavery, all the fucking horseshit we're seeing is simply because as citizens we're not demanding midwifery, a master of midwifery, and a master of wisdom, the logos, from every politician and spiritual leader. That's it. To be a good citizen and to save our world from extinction, that's what we need. To be going through it ourselves and have an understanding of it at least enough to demand it of our leaders. If we don't, the laws of our planet will be guided by ignorance, which will cause our extinction. And all of the bullshit we're seeing right now. Why did Trump get in? Because the left wing didn't have a standard of objective truth called wisdom that they demanded. They were all therefore corrupted by their own ignorance. They didn't help business as usual. Fuck off with business as usual. That's why people voted for Trump. The worst person ever is the leader of America. How the fuck did we get there? Because we did not, as citizens, demand wisdom of our actual politicians. He's an actor. He's fake. We all know he's fake and a liar. Everything he's ever done is fake. But the fake is better than nothing. Especially when he's a kind of fake that reflects the pathologos ignorance of all of the American citizens, or at least a majority of them. If you appeal to the majority of the ignorance of people, then, oh yeah, I guess that's because you've never gone through midwifery. Therefore, every citizen has an obligation to go through midwifery. Otherwise, they get duped by the next Trump, or the next Netanyahu, or the next fucking Hitler. There's a reason why half the Germans supported Hitler. This. And our question is, if this is so simple and obvious, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 terms. That's it. Universally true, universally beneficial, helps everyone. Socrates was talking about it, Parmenides was talking about it, Diotima was talking about it, Homer was talking about it. Then we killed Socrates, and then we got Plato who dropped a lot of it, and then Aristotle who rejected the whole thing, and that's where we are. But Pierre Grimes rediscovered it. It's there to be seen. It's obvious once you see it. It helps everyone. So one of our questions is, if all this comes down to this, because understanding solves problems, understanding is what we apply to right opinions to get knowledge, it's what we apply to our false opinions to get freedom, and what we apply to even knowledge to go beyond to know the self. What's that state of knowledge? Number one. That's our question. Remember, you need a question to be here. The question is, oh, what's it like to be a wizard? What's it like to be a Jedi? What's it like to go on the quest for Middle Earth? You need a question to be on a quest. Our question is, what's the state of being of understanding? And what's the state of being the good self? And how do they relate? And another question we're carrying is, why is it so difficult to share this with people? considering it's every citizen's duty, considering it's a moral and ethical imperative, considering we will live in a fucking utopia if we all did it. Why is it so difficult to share the truth with human beings? Okay, I've got my coffee. It's all topped up. So, a good question. The need to preserve our species by aligning our laws with the laws of the cosmos and what's required for all of us in our hero's journey to make that happen. We can't just sit back and let the parents fight or let the babies shoot each other with the guns. We've got a responsibility to demand what we're learning here from everyone in positions of power. The fact that these things exist now, yes, oranges, apples, they're amazing, butterflies, so maybe it's worth preserving our species. And human beings too. You're gonna eat an apple. Oh, hello Reeve, hello. I wasn't meant to be a debate, I just like being here. Oh no, it was a good question. I'm not having a go at you. I'm emphasizing the importance of our role. And hey, you're one of the good ones. You're here. You're in the game. And the more that you're here, and the more that you practice it as a way of being, like tune in whenever you can, the more likely you're going to be able to demand what you learn from those in leadership positions. Or maybe even one day we'll demand that you become a leader, because you're one of the people who have mastered wisdom. And then you'll probably say, not me. And we'll say, yes, you, because we need it. And then we'll say, okay, give us 10 years of your leadership and we will erect 10 statues in your honor. And then you will say, okay. Philosophy will trick me, say it isn't so. Yes. That's the difficulty. Don't even believe philosophy. Now, there is a role for right opinions, as we've been saying, but that's your own. You're gathering the quotes. Otherwise, yeah, if somebody says, oh, by the way, and they appeal to your unsuspected false beliefs from childhood, yeah, you know, right? I like what that Donald Trump is saying. I can't believe I listened to those left-wingers. Left wing is the devil. They're all woke now. I hate woke. That's the issue. So even the left wing must, the good people who we normally call as progressives or the left wing, but there is no right wing. It's just the pathologos. People identified with the pathologos. It's not a political party. It's just a pathologos group. The people who are actively seeking benefit need to do their best to do this and create schools so that everyone can do what we're here for. Benefit everyone. And we benefit, as we've been reading, by sharing in the logos. Which is another question. What exactly is participation? And if the best providence comes from dream analysis, how do we do dream analysis? So those are our questions for today. How do we participate in providence, or participate in beauty, or participate in anything? Keep right on my board. Yeah. Question 1 was, if dreams are so important, how do we do dream analysis? If dreams are the best sorts of dream analysis is the best sort of conversation, it supercharges your chats with the good people over coffee. Some ASMR for you there. Analysis. How? Also, if we want to participate in providence, if we want to participate in harmony with the universe, if we want to participate in beauty itself or knowledge, how does participation work? And of course, one of the significances of modern philosophy is We follow Aristotle, a wolf in sheep's clothing, speaking for Socrates, and he rejects participation. He has the idea of a seed. Have a seed. Move it over here. So, the seed has a potential and then grows into its flower. It's just the playing out of its potential. So everything for the flower is contained in its potential. Physical. Physical, potential, contained. Notice, language of the physical world, contained within. Seed. It's Aristotle. And we say to Aristotle, boo. We say boo. So, physical. No participation. So all of the things like development or growth or nourishment or the ideal of a flower or beauty, order, no. It's just contained within a seed. There's no participation in the ideas or eidos. So one of the significances about murdering Socrates was that he was murdered when Plato was too young to learn midwifery, meaning when Aristotle has his problem, because we know the pathologos blocks the logos, blocks the level of development into being. So Aristotle has a block into being. Of course, all students do. If you're a human being. So, remember we said our moral obligation as of human beings is to do this, but also learn this, question, notes, organization to the dialectic, open for our experience of bliss, and then go beyond through understanding. Same thing, but our false opinions, having a question about why do I have problems? Why do I have blocks? Meaning our obligation is to understand midwifery and reading and philosophy. Plato didn't have midwifery, just had philosophy. Why? What's the issue? Well, pathologos, blocks this development. It's anti-logos. It's a fear of being. It's a fear of rationality. It's a fear of the self. All Abrahamic beliefs, all religious beliefs, are essentially teaching a fear of what's most important. No understanding, just believe. No self-reflection, do as you're told. You can't experience God. That's heresy. Your development doesn't matter. You're always the same. Just no solving problems. Just ask for forgiveness every Sunday. It's always a lie. Now, I used to say, I don't mean your religious beliefs or your family beliefs. I mean everybody else's, to point to how stupid it is when somebody picks favorites. But I'm tired of doing that. I'm not making that joke anymore. Grow up. Like anybody, every single person has some sort of religious influence and family pathologo, so it's not a blame game. But also, I'm not going to baby people. No, come on. The laws of the universe don't make a special exception just for you, whoever you are, who's getting butthurt. But I like being a Jew. But I like being a Mormon. But I like being a racist. But I like genociding people. Come on. Come on. We say to those people, come on. And because there was no midwifery of Aristotle, and pathologos blocks the logos, because we killed Socrates in front of Plato before he learnt midwifery, Plato wasn't able to midwife Aristotle, and so our understanding of philosophy is from Aristotle, not Socrates, Parmenides, Diotima, or Homer, or Xenophanes, everyone. Because there's just one philosophy, it's not many, that's Aristotle. Because the world of becoming is manyness, many beautiful things, many just things. Just one beauty itself, justice itself, mind itself, in being. The many from the one, the scattered particulars to the rational unity. So how do we participate in beauty, in justice, in goodness? Have another question? What is the state of mind, the state of mind or being of understanding, if understanding is the game, is the point, is our evolution. We've talked a lot about being, we've talked a lot about belief, but what's understanding? So that we can recognize it. And we've got a new one's come to birth from following this question, which is another significance of carrying one question. You're carrying a question, how do I open this mysterious door in the Resident Evil game? By moving this statue? Well, hang on a second, by moving this statue, I've seen there's another door. A new puzzle has come to light. Ooh. What's the state of... what was the word? State of the one self? And we've also got a question. Why is... Let's get it from the text. Simple. I think the word was simple. Yes. To open the mind, it's difficult. Yes, simple. Difficult. So why is... Why is it difficult to share what is good, true, beneficial, and obvious? Actually, well, let's throw in the word rational too. Rational and obvious. Oh, necessary. Remember, moral imperative. What it means to be a good citizen. Moral imperative. But necessary to solve problems. Necessary to be a good citizen. Necess. Necessary and obvious. These are the questions we're carrying as we read. Potential for a dimension where things could be less dystopian capitalist nightmares. Yes. Less dystopian capitalist nightmares. That's the point. So I think that's what's behind Socrates saying, hey, I'm going to a better place where better people have done their jobs here. You'll find better people here. Tell my friend, I can't remember his name, who's also a philosopher, to hurry up. If you're a real philosopher, you'll want to hurry up and meet me as quick as you can. I'm going to a place where there is better people than you find around in these parts. Chugging orange juice and eating apples. Probably vitamin C deficient. You don't want scurvy. Arr, no scurvy for me, mateys. I think of dying. I think I'll just miss the smell of oranges. Smell of rain in the air. The way the sky looks in the morning. Sounds of nature. Oh, have a look. Have a look. This process, Socrates says, philosophers die many times before they bury you. The process of going from the experiencing yourself as a part of mind, in a shadow of being, to actually knowing yourself properly, from the world of becoming, appearances, to the world of truth, that's nous. This is nous. This is knowledge. This is what we need to demand. Stick your head above the water and have a look. Socrates uses the metaphor of, imagine a fish swimming in the ocean, never knowing that there's a whole different world on the surface. And then one day sticking his head up above water and realizing what he thought was air was just water. And finally taking a sweet breath of real air. That's what it means to wake up, to being. Check it out. See if, and by the way, this is the cave analogy. It says, in the Republic, Socrates says, hey, the world of becoming is like shadows on the wall of the cave. The idea is to leave that and experience the true world, true animals, true trees, true air, true life. But hey, see, if everything that you are saying that you enjoyed is merely a shadow, don't you want to see the real thing? Check it out. And then make a decision. By the way, Socrates says in the Republic, he says, by the way, those who do check out real being look back at their friends who are in the world of shadows and pity them because they don't even know. They take this as reality. But the thing is, if he tries to help them, but they get so pissed off that if they could get their hands on the guy, they would kill him. The guy who's just trying to help. Because they've taken the shadows as reality. See the real world. But he says, by the way, if you do, you won't want to go back, number one. But that's an issue. You won't want to, if all of the things that you enjoyed, you can see and feel and experience most purely as they are, why would you go back to the lies, to the shadows? But Socrates says, I urge you to. Because now you can see better. Well, that's a different story for a different day. Help. Help. Do not dwell in the isles of the blessed. If somebody helped you to overcome your attachment to the world of becoming, to see reality as it is, to see the truth, then maybe come down and help others to do the same. You don't have to, but Socrates encourages you not to be like those people who just go off on their own and do not participate in the activities of man because you've seen through them. Being Instagram famous or being rich doesn't really appeal to you anymore because you've seen through it now. But, you know, join them in their silly games and maybe help them up. Especially if you got help along the way. And Glaucon says, well, if these are the justest of men, because they know what justice is, then I think they'll listen to us because we're only making a just request from just men. So hopefully, says Glaucon, they will come back and help the rest of us. And if you're one of these people, join our Discord and help all of us. Help us on our journey through the dialectic. Maggots. Oh, maggots. Oh, right. Maggots sounds like maggots. Yeah, true. Drop off the death note at my house. Oh. Rich and famous seems like silly. I know a lot of famous people, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, do you want to be... There's an expression Socrates uses. Would you rather be in the real world? Here? Because you know what? I would rather be the slave to a guy that has no land in this realm than the king of all of the dead that live here. The difference between appearance and reality. So we got our questions. What were they? Remind us. How do you do dream analysis? How does participation work? What is the state of mind of understanding or state of being of understanding? What is the state of the oneself? And why is it difficult to share what is good, true, beneficial, rational, necessary, and obvious? Okay. So the principles come from, the principal ideas come from what is inferred from the experience, the majestic experience of being. So beauty is encountered in our natural world, all of the things we've been talking about, beautiful things in our physical world, from a wide variety of experiences. For all the multiplicity of instances, we recognize something similar. Otherwise, we wouldn't say it's beautiful. All these beautiful things. So we want to find the source of those beautiful things. Beautiful streamer, beautiful puppy, beautiful stuffy, beautiful fruits and flowers. We want to have an encounter with beauty itself. But, Socrates says, I offer no explanation of how this takes place. It's a profound mystery. I lack a theory of participation. Yet, I say it happens. It happens as the way of divine things. So that's one of our questions. How participation? And this is where it got tricky last time. Would you say the principles of midwifery are the same or different from what we call those higher intelligible principles? Sock says he's got a good question. Does it take seeing a similarity between things? Okay. The principles of midwifery are a shadow of the intelligible principles. So our principles, our dialectic, our understanding is a shadow of the aspects of being. But it's the avenue through which you can gain further insight into its source. So it's the shadow of, but also it's the way of getting back. Along the way, there is learning of the language of the dream maker, right? How is dream analysis? Somehow along this way, we're learning his language. Just add that. Language of the dream maker. Okay, this kind of reflection is in midwifery and dreams, and it turns us back upon what it derived its existence. So the principles of the dialectic in midwifery and dream analysis are from being, and it turns us back to being. So it's its cause or source, but it's also what we get back to if we do it. Chest yesterday, so I'm a bit sore. Naturally turns upon that from which it was derived. Neat, neat, neat. So that's interesting. So is that a clue into participation? If we are following the principles in dream analysis and midwifery, we are being like intelligence itself, or like the dream master itself, dream maker itself. Is that an answer to participation? Not really, but close, maybe. I don't know. The soul or self proceeds from itself as its cause. So our model of these levels of dimensions of reality, the good self or the one self, somehow generates the world of being, which then generates the world of becoming. So we could say the highest. So it's interesting because the best thing you can do, the movement through the world of becoming, is loving learning. If you're not learning, you're stuck. But what's the best thing you can learn as a human being? How to make money, how to get famous, how to scam people to make a profit. Well, it seems like the highest art is philodianoia, or the dialectic, dream analysis, midwifery, and philosophy. And they all follow the same principles, or the dialectic. So the highest kind of learning is the dialectic. But what we're saying, what Socrates is saying is, the dialectic is the highest thing, but also it's a shadow of the very principles of reality. And it's our way back. So somehow we have this thing that you can learn in the physical world, which somehow straddles both realms. It's the highest thing of learning in the physical world. It's the highest art. And as we're saying, everyone's obligation, and we must demand it from our leaders, the people who are, hey, you demand the best three-point shooter in your NBA team. You demand the best thrower of the football in your quarterback. So too, we must demand, because there's only one quarterback in your team, from our kings or whatever, spiritual or religious or political leaders, political or spiritual leaders, the best of the masters of the dialectic. But also, to help everyone learn it, as well as make our laws reflect it, but also, hey, it's in both realms. It's the shadow of being, but it's through it that we can reach being as well. That's interesting, because if that's the case, we have to ask, is there something similar that straddles these two realms? The highest aspect of being, which is also the beginning or the lowest part of the self. So that's some more questions of our idea of participation. But this model says, hey, the self creates being, and obviously creation's, the artist's creation is going to be like itself, and being creates the physical world. The dialectic especially. You want to understand music, you want to understand geometry, you want to understand anything, you'll see the structure of the dialectic in it. But here we're seeing something really interesting. That is, the self proceeds from itself as a cause, since it unknowingly framed its unique false beliefs and its role from its early transmission scenes in childhood. Having been the unique source of its own pathologos, it has the power capable of dissolving it. The false belief about ourselves, that's the pathologos, or a sick logos. Okay? So similarly, as reality unfolds from the self into being, into becoming, in a shadow-like way, our human problems are also from the self. Not the real self, but our pathologos ignorance that blocks our development and keeps our problems alive is because we ourselves came to the conclusion, unknowingly, without words, came to ourselves and our roles from our family. We came to that conclusion to save our loved ones, to keep our images of them being kind and caring and stuff. So we are, in our lives, even zombies, most humans who haven't gone through this, even our zombie lives, we are simply playing out the unfolding of self. So we're from ourselves. Ourself is our cause, which means we have the potential, if we created it, we can dissolve it, which is a distorted shadow-like reflection of reality itself. Because what we are saying is, hey, real reality is from the self into the mind, into the physical world. The pathologos self we made with our own roles that we play out in all of our lives, causing our problems. From the smallest inconveniences to the greatest human tragedies. So our pathologos, again, reflects philosophy. The understanding that surfaces these 6 beliefs and confirms that they have been dissolved by testing it in your own experience. Go out and reach your goals. Go out and have these conversations. Go out and do dream analysis. Midwife a friend. Is a more profound experience of the understanding. So, this midwifery and going through the dissolving is the shadow of the creation of the problem. Meaning that this activity of understanding, which is a reflection of being, which comes from the self, addresses our pathologos, which is a reflection of our roles from the false idea of the self. By the way, and here's an interesting insight. The fact that we change in this process, the fact that we dissolve and remove our pathologos, we don't replace it with a new belief. It's not Tony Robbins bullshit positive thinking garbage. By the way, he's on all of those right-wing fascist podcasts and things now. Grifter, scammer, always has been. Didn't know that when I was a kid, but there you go. It's not positive thinking. You don't replace one false belief with another one that you like better. You just dissolve what's not there. So, the fact that you change in this, recognizing the falsity of the pathologos bequeaths a benefit to the soul. And there's a word, bequeath. Holy crap. If you're talking about being penultimate instead of second last, and then you use the word bequeath, recognizing the falsity of your false belief about yourself bequeaths a benefit. Everyone at the coffee shop you're having this conversation in, they're going to carry you away on their shoulders. They're going to throw money at you. Bequeath? You are the smartest man in this coffee shop. All clap. But if the fact that it bequeaths a benefit shows you that the pathologos was not essential to your nature, a higher state of mind that's been blocked by that transmission of the pathologos can be resumed. The soul is now can now freely engage itself in the further development of its more awakened self. You are more awakened. Now keep that in mind. That's going to come into play again in a minute. Okay, and then we got some more stuff about dream analysis. Every dream is uniquely meaningful, has an image of yourself. You identify with it, so there's your pathologos. Has a drama. The drama plays out that image and therefore should have an analog to your problem in your present, because your present is, as we said, playing out the implications of your false idea of the self. Therefore, the drama in your dream has to reflect the drama of your everyday life because it has an image of you as well, just as your everyday life. But the dream can provide you a solution. You learn the language of the dreams, it'll have a clue or a puzzle in there. When solved, you can solve your problem. And that's going to be central to your spiritual life. Okay, the source of the perfection of the soul lies in the discovery of its own higher reason for existing. You've got a purpose. So now that you're free, you can perfect your state of being. That's your reason for existing. The reason springs from an intelligence that it also shares in participation, for it reverts upon itself at that very moment that it opens a more profound state of mind called the twilight of the experience of the intelligence. So, here is our mysterious twilight experience. There is a state of mind. As you free yourself from your pathologos, you see it's not needed. And you realize that there's a higher reason for you being alive. That's a twilight because you're on the verge of experience of being. So this by the way, you're not in being. But reason springs from an intelligence that it shares in. It reverts upon itself at the moment that it opens to a more profound state of mind. I see the word reason. One of our questions is, what is the state of mind of understanding? Is this twilight experience understanding? It's on the verge of the intelligence. It's a more profound state of mind. I don't know. But we have this mysterious twilight on the verge of the experience of intelligence. The very way it proceeds in this process is dialogue is you proceed through this kind of dialogue. Midwifery, dream analysis, and philosophy. While all following the dialectic. The dialogue is the exercise of a cognitive faculty we call understanding. Go out and talk to someone about it. Buy them a coffee. It culminates in the openness that is the shadow of the openness and freedom of a clear and pure mind functioning. So, this could be a clue. We want to know this feeling state of understanding. Currently, it's only described as a cognitive faculty. We know that already. Our evolution is from belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding-based cognitive functioning. But what's it feel like? Apparently, it has a shadow of openness and freedom, of clarity and purity. So our question is, if knowledge or nous is all of these superlatives, beauty, being, bliss, all that stuff, clarity and purity isn't. It's clear. It's pure. It's not blissful. It's not everything all at once. It's not eternity and oneness together. Then, if understanding is a shadow of openness, freedom, clarity, clear, or clarity, pure, What does that mean? We saw that understanding is a shadow of the intelligibility of nous, and therefore it's our way back there. But that's not this. But we have been talking about this as the penultimate, making this, the self or the good itself, the ultimate. So maybe the functioning of understanding is a shadow of this, whereas the state of being of the understanding is a shadow of this. Could this be described as open, free, clear, and pure? Today we've been talking about the significance of this state over this state is you can't eat a hamburger in this state because you won't know where to stop eating and you'll eat your hand off. Or you can't drive your car in this state. In other words, it's something you come in and out of. It's not permanent. It's an experience, not a state. I mean, yeah. Let's talk about it in that way. This is an encounter, but also a state. As Pierre would say, you can have your coffee and drink it too. In other words, you might not be able to stay in bliss forever. You're going to crash your car. But can you stay open forever? Can you stay free forever? Can you stay clear forever? Can you stay pure forever? So do we have in this right opinion that we are able to, because we have a question, reflect together in the chat and together in our reading, take these right opinions with our question to solve a puzzle using understanding? Are we able to answer this kick-ass, freaking awesome question? Of all of the questions and all of the puzzles and all of the movies and books and video games you've ever played, how would you rank this question? What is the state of being of the evolved cognitive function of understanding and the state of the self? Which is, to quote the text, the reason for existence. Have I mentioned this book's a banger? Isn't that interesting? No, I'm not there yet, but we're getting close, aren't we? To say that the structure and functioning reflects the intelligibility of that, but its state reflects the state. Maybe, as a hypothesis, it goes in our if sack. We have an if sack we carry in our inventory and a sack of questions. Ifs are our hypotheses, possible answers, and these are our possible questions. These are the questions. Have a question is to be on a quest. Now, what's interesting is... Oh, and by the way, it can be also a twilight for the experience of this. That's interesting. Twilight? Does that mean that there are sexy vampires? Have you seen a sexy vampire lately? Why? How do you spell twilight? I've seen one. Twilight. T-W-I-L-I-G-H-T. And I don't mean Robert Pattinson. Question mark. So, what we're saying also is, by reflecting on the process we're going through, remember, lighting an incense stick, as you go through dream analysis and you get the benefit from it by participating in it through the logos and dialectic. So too, you ask the dreamer, hey, what does that make about, what can you think, what does that say about the dream maker itself? We light an incense, remember? Where is the word incense? I'll find it. We burn a stick of incense in honor to the maker of dreams, because it's from the reflection upon the dream master itself that you can say you are a part of a caring and intelligible cosmos that we participate in and can become in union with it. Are we becoming like the dream maker itself? Imagine that. Equally so, we have been reflecting, we've been solving the questions, doing dream analysis, but we've been lighting an incense stick or reflecting on the thing we're going through. The fact that we have been reflecting on the process we're going through while going through it has brought to light the fact that we are also understanding right now. We're going through it. So our question being stung, that we are gathering right opinions, quotes, to solve. Organizing it together to solve it, understanding. We're doing it. As we are going through it, are you noticing yourself in an open, pure, clear, free state? Is there some twilight to that state, whatever that means? Thumbs up. Are we answering our question? What's it feel like? What's the state of existence? Somehow a reflection of the intelligibility of that and the state of that. Can we therefore say we're on the twilight of not just being, because we are reflecting intelligibly, could we be on the twilight of the state of the self? Not just experiencing mind, but encountering the cause of mind, the self? Keep reading. The source of the perfection of the soul lies in the discovery of its own higher reason for existing. This reason springs from an intelligence that it also shares in, for it reverts upon itself at that very moment that it opens a more it reverts upon itself at the moment that it opens a more profound state of mind called the twilight of the experience of the intelligence. The very way it proceeds in this process of dialogue is the exercise of a cognitive faculty we call understanding, and it culminates in the openness that is the shadow of the openness and freedom of a clear and pure mind functioning. Ooh. This philosophical way of proceeding highlights its very mode of existing and in turning about, which is an ousia movement, self-reflection, reflecting ousia itself and being, it reverts upon the intelligence. Thus, this way of understanding unites into a oneness. Ooh. And in doing so, it returns to its natural source, the intelligence. As a result, what before was a scattered multiplicity without coherence and integrity becomes a set of ideas linked together with an inner coherence, the dialectic, understanding, putting it together, that to grasp requires the intellect to be put in play. You're not imitating anyone, you're not believing anyone, you're solving puzzles, bringing in the intelligence. The moment of insight reveals its moment of existence. It has a higher and more profound mode of existence since, hey, in the moment of insight, light an incense stick, reflect on yourself because you might recognize there's no image of yourself there. Ooh. Therefore, that ushers in a dawning realization that you, the soul, is not subject to time. So, in our solving of puzzles through that process of philosophy we've been outlining, we realize that in that moment of insight, no image of the self, you're out of time. Similarly, earlier we were talking about the resulting bequeathed benefit and pink from midwifery shows that the resulting change in the soul reveals the pathologos was not essential to its nature. Through midwifery, you bequeath a benefit by dissolving any image of yourself, realizing the image isn't needed. There is no image. That's the benefit. Equally so, that's in midwifery, removing false beliefs. On the other side, the perfection of understanding, which happens through dialogue, the perfecting of the soul through understanding and dialogue, can usher in a similar experience because in the moment of insight, you also realize there's no image of the self. So in both respects, you can see that the soul is not subject to time. Ooh.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Improving for the better. You better be giving Amazon reviews from this book saying it's a banger. What a thing to discover by doing those two things that we have said that we're supposed to be doing. Oh my God. These kind of experiences prepare the mind for a more penetrating insight into our mode of existence, into its more profound way of functioning. Crack my back. Ugh. And that it has a power capable of reaching to what is most divine. This activity of soul experiences. The activity the soul experiences is in time. So, it's an activity in time. But the states of mind, it steps out of that temporal passing phase of being and enters into a timelessness. So, back to our question. What is the state of mind we're looking for in this new way of being called philodianoia, loving understanding? It's a shadow of openness, freedom, clarity, and pure. It's a twilight maybe. Its activity is in time. But its state of mind, which is what we're after, state of mind, steps out of that temporal passing phase of being. Steps out of that temporal passing. Had that expression? There's an expression that's supposed to help you deal with problems. This too shall pass. Well, time is a passing phase. Temporal passing phase of being. Phase of being. And so as our functioning is in time through these sorts of dialogues, our state of mind steps out of that temporal passing phase of being. Ooh. Wow.
Wow.
And enters into the timelessness of reality. Well, let's put that down too. Let's not leave that one out. Timelessness of reality. So activity in time and also the state of mind. Timelessness of reality. Interesting. Pretty neat way of being, hey? Considering believers are marked by a conflict between each of these key terms. So this is why we can say the soul's activity is in time, as its existence is timeless or eternal. Ooh. Existence is eternal. So there is a state of being called understanding, functioning through the faculty, the cognitive faculty of understanding, in which your activity is in time, but your state of mind is timeless, like reality, of reality, eternal. Your existence is eternal. Sounds neat? I would like that, please. Says philosophers. We could conclude that since it reverts upon itself in its activity, and since it's also recursive in respect to its existence, it's self-contained. This idea of being self-constituted means all its functions, its mode of being, and its power and activity are all within itself, and stands independent of anything else, so we can say it's self-constituted. Interesting. Its mode of being, its functions, and its power and activity. Allowing us to do this. Are all So it's recursive. Are all. So it's recursive. So it's in its object. We're interested in intelligence itself and functioning. Verts upon itself in its activity or functioning, and since it's recursive in respect to its existence, so we say, and its activity. And its existence. In other words, we're using our understanding to know ourselves as intelligence. So it's our object, or we're focused on existence. But also we're using the aspects of it in our functioning. So our functioning or activity, it's all recursive. It's all in respect to itself. Therefore, we can say it's self-contained. And self-caused, or not caused, self-constituted. It's within itself. Does that help us recognize it as a state of mind? Not really, it's more of a description of what it is, right? The mode of being, its power and activity and its functioning, the state of understanding, is all recursive and self-contained. It's a functioning and activity about intelligence, and its goal is intelligence, which actually reflects the state of mind because it's an activity in time, but the state of mind steps out of that temporal, passing phase of being into the timelessness of reality. Or we can say, well, our functioning is in time, its existence is eternal, or our state of being, or our state of existence is eternal. Eternal, self-contained, and self-constituted. Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Okay, and then Jesus goes on to say, does this help people who are watching as well? So do all of the Twitch and YouTube viewers gain benefit by watching this reflection and dream work and midwifery? Yes. We can all share in being witnesses to understanding another's problem. Sharing a personal problem with others is evidence of this kind of cognitive activity brings a kinship and benefit to other minds. So, in this way of being, we can have a unity or kinship with all living beings. So, belief-based thinking and belief-based groups cause conflict on our planet, within our species, disharmony. But this activity, this kind of cognitive activity, is its antidote to this shit that we see in our world currently. Because it brings a kinship or unity, we're all the same. Don't need to kill anyone who looks different from your mummy and daddy. Putin, Yahoo, Trump, sexist, racists, and everything else. Because we're all the same. We all have problems. We're all here to go through this. Kinship, and we all benefit by going through it. So it brings a kinship and benefit with and to other minds. Neat. So our hypothesis we've been carrying in our IFSAC is this is the necessary new way of being for all mankind. We're getting more evidence to support that as we read. So the significance of carrying questions and hypotheses are what we're seeing today. Because we've had some fantastic insights already. We've had some fantastic questions we haven't solved yet, but my God, are they good. Of all of the questions in all of the mystery novels or video games or movies you've ever seen or played or read, how important is answering this question? What's the state of being, of understanding? And how does it reflect the higher state of being of the good self? It's up there, right? I'm joking. It's the best I've ever seen. This question literally is the best fucking question. We got seen a lot about it, haven't answered it. The significance of carrying a question. Also, the significance of carrying a hypothesis. A hypothesis is this is a new way of being. Written on a board somewhere. Philadelphia. From belief-based cognition to understanding. There we go. Belief-based thinking, the purpose or evolution, our meaning of life is philodainoia. From belief-based thinking, belief-based thinking to understanding. The hypothesis, it's in our if sac. And earlier we were seeing that man is between nature and the intelligible, as love is between the mortal and the immortal. Love takes us from ignorance to wisdom. Love takes us from the world of man to the gods. Therefore, it's not dry. We love this game. And we're understanding the true nature of love. And as we saw earlier, the higher significance and result of intimate relationships. So we've carried this as our purpose and meaning of life, philodainoia as a new way of being, belief to understanding. So by carrying that as a hypothesis, as we read this, by the way, sharing a problem with others is evidence that this kind of cognitive activity, evolution, is not growing wings. It's a not a new mode of traversing the planet like a bird, not physical evolution. It's a cognitive function, not a moving function. Different kind of movement. This kind of cognitive activity brings a kinship and benefit with and to other minds. If we're looking for a new way of being that doesn't hurt everyone like our current ways of being, belief, it has to be something that benefits. If we're looking for something that doesn't cause division, break things, murder people, genocide children, it better benefit everyone. By carrying a hypothesis, we've learned more about the new way of being and the meaning of our evolution here as beings. Sharing, not just going through it, but sharing it. Remember? Philosophy, midwifery, dream analysis, and sharing it. Talking. Creating things that reflects it. Having a coffee with a friend who's a good heart and good mind. Brings a benefit and kinship. Okay, so by the way, we've still got another mystery. Aristotle. Ooh. Aristotle rejects this kind of kinship and benefit through participation in this unified cognitive activity which turns upon pure intelligence and reflects a mode of being that may even reflect the state of being of the one self. Rejects it all. Everything good we've discovered is rejected by Aristotle, and that's who you learn modern philosophy from. At university. And on YouTube. Except for this channel. We get an A+. Aristotle rejects this participation. In his place, he says that all ideas, like beauty, have their essence only in the particular thing. So, you see a beautiful girl, grab her, take it apart, pull all the body pieces apart, so you can look inside and see where beauty lives. Can you imagine such a sociopathic way of being? There is no such thing as beauty itself. It's just in the particular things. You see two beautiful girls? Wrong. That's not beauty. That's something else. You can't have two things. Just in the one thing. All things that have become beautiful has that power to be so within themselves. The power to do so, okay, so you just both happen to have the beautiful gene. The power to do so lies within each thing. It's called its potential. And then motion is just a way of becoming. The expression of the power of potential in each thing is called its motion, or way of becoming. Okay, it's a new language. So Aristotle's new language isn't what we've been learning. It's something new, different, shit. It has the image of something coming out of nature. Not being, not the good. The lowest. Poor old Aristotle was someone with a big brain and a big problem. And we killed Socrates, so that's on us. Because Socrates didn't have time to teach midwifery to Plato, who was Aristotle's teacher. So yes, derived from the study of nature. So it's viewed from the empirical view. There is no participation in the intelligible. Whatever growth and development is in nature, has a potential. That's the seed analogy. Where is it going? Nowhere. There's no meaning to things, which is philosophy, right? Modern philosophy. Go on YouTube, look at some philosophy lecture. I've seen the ones with, I get like 10 views. They get like 10,000. They say, there's no meaning of life. There's no purpose. It's just whatever you want it to be, which is appealing to people who are not in the game. And they want to keep their own stupid opinions and never evolve or fix problems or benefit the world. Life's what you make of it. Choose your own meaning. Doesn't go anywhere special. You want to kill some people who are different? Yeah. Why not? Come on, Aristotle. We say to them, come on. Come on. Sort it out, bro. And he makes something called an unmoved mover. However, the unmoved mover is not aware of itself. It's not intelligence. It's not self-reflective. It's not ousia. And therefore, it has no goal. It's not towards any goal or fulfilling any promise, or itself being the blissful goal of intelligent beings. So we miss that blissful state of being. How can it be a god if it has no purpose or interaction with man? So Aristotle closed the door on any discussion of the Greek gods, who are the myths representing the logos, or the intelligible realm, what the myths refer to. Aristotle shut that door. Yes, he did. To open it is difficult yet simple. And then we talked about the deniers. So Paul and Aristotle denied Jesus and Socrates. Modern Christians are Pauline, who denies Jesus. Modern philosophers are Aristotelian, who deny Socrates. Mark is a little bit better because he denies Paul. So denier of the denier. And Plato is a little bit better because at least he has some metaphysics. That's where we are. So now we have the chorus coming up. Let's see where this whole, we've done a lot of reflection today. Worth it. So we read, gave birth to some questions, carried our questions and our hypothesis, read it again, talked with our friends again, starting to piece it together. We are learning. Hooray. So let's read a little bit longer and let's do that. All right. Let's finish this section. Huge insights and questions and funness in our review today. But let's finish this part off. I want to keep reading, but I need to play some music, so I have to call it soon. I got a new guitar pedal. I can't wait to try it out. It's a freeze pedal. I had an idea for it, and I hope it pans out. Yeah. Oh. Big stretch. So Aristotle closed the door to the intelligible and beauty and participation and what we need to solve human problems and reach our excellence. Yes, he did close the door. Screw you, no, not screw you, Aristotle. Screw you, humanity, for killing Socrates. To open the door is difficult yet simple. Those we call deniers deny the role of the mind. That seems to be key. So we've got deniers, like wolves in sheep's clothing, and just straight out deniers. So just reject completely. So far we've been gathering reactions to new truth and intelligibility, understanding. There's some people who just reject the new completely to hold on to their old beliefs. We could call them deniers. We have those who pretend to take the new truth or teaching, but reject it and substitute their own. Paul, Aristotle, wolf in sheep's clothing. And here he's saying, hey, by the way, they're both deniers, and what they deny is the role of the mind. Makes sense. Pathologos rejects the mind. Believers reject the mind. Groups reject the development of your own mind. Groups bound by belief. And so do these dudes. Paul and Aristotle are the deniers who created ultimate systems to avoid the teachings of their teachers. As for Mark, he rejects Paul the denier. So we can call him a denier of a denier. So we have deniers and deniers of deniers. Jesus comes in. Socrates, you are among the noblest and wisest of teachers, and you know that your words were left to other interpreters who should have first experienced these sacred things before proclaiming what they thought were true. So we can take that too. Hey, check it out. Before you start telling children that the devil exists and sin exists, and if they don't do as they told, they go to hell, why don't you fucking check it out first and experience wisdom before you start wearing the dress and telling women they're less than men and justifying attacks on homosexuals or slavery against people who are different or genocide against non-believers and the crusade. Maybe before you start doing that shit, you want to have a look first. Now, okay, people on this channel aren't to that level of entrenched in their ignorance, so I'm not talking to you. I'm talking hypothetically to everyone else who is doing that terrible, terrible stuff. Like Paul. So maybe let's experience them before we come to our conclusions that we are the ones who can speak for these people. The chorus comes in. Oh, these guys, they are haters. Here come the haters. Here come the haters. Here come the hot haters. Na-na-na. Hating on the mind. Na-na-na. Oh, that's a terrible parody song. It wasn't even in rhythm. Here they are. The hell? How can you have... Oh, I pressed two buttons at once. Chorus. Here is another so-called analysis, and it is empty as empty can be. Analogies again. A phooey on them. You can do anything with them, and none of them can be confirmed. The cornerstone of Christianity, Paul, is dismissed with a few words. He is the one who made the resurrection perfectly clear. Wake up and look instead of shouting nonsense. First off, there was a resurrection. It is a simple fact, undeniable as it is. How can all those who witnessed it be wrong? Behind your blah blah is nothing but doubting Thomases, a doubting Thomas. As for Aristotle, well, that's easy. Once you realize all this talk about enlightenment will not save your soul, then you'll see the truth. Dump this philosophy and master nature. Mastering nature gives you power to manipulate her, torture her, and get her secrets out of her. That's what experiments are, simply torture. What you really need to do is drop your philosophy. Then you'll see you only need a practical approach that is free from all the ambiguity of your philosophy. What's that? That is Aristotle. You don't need anything more once you've got your faith. You need faith because of the failure of understanding. We are all too weak for the task. We are small beings. Just small beings. Let us torture nature to reveal her secrets. That is all. Boo. Let's see the anti-chorus. Own the chorus. If you are making content to support the channel, you can have an Instagram or YouTube short. Anti-chorus owned once again by chorus. Haters owned by philosophers. And go viral. And give me 10% of those money. Or at least direct them to the channel. Here comes the anti-chorus. Cha-na-na-na. Oh. Oh. Come on. There we go. Anti-chorus in the red. Now is your turn to listen. It is true that analysis is empty. Is it? No, it's not. Is it? Okay, let me start again. Now it is your turn to listen. Is it true that analysis is empty? All you need to know is what it is empty of. Go back to what has been said, like we did today. See if this analysis is empty of interpretations that are foreign to the work. Remember how we said, you don't bring a key from Silent Hill into Resident Evil? You don't bring your foreign interpretations to the work? It is painful to realize that you have been persuaded to believe what is manifestly true. Sorry. It is painful to realize that you have been persuaded to believe what is manifestly false, as it is to realize that you have undergone a suffering of your own making. Wake up from your folly. Put aside these deniers of truth and seek your freedom in the truths you discover about yourself. Face it. You're afraid to look at yourself. There we go. Banger conclusion. We've gone through a lot of stuff today and we've seen a lot of really cool things and the significance of carrying questions and carrying hypotheses, our if sac and our q sac. But this is a banger way of summarizing the kinds of reactions human beings will have. And that's part of this book, the big part. Not only what is the truth, what is the new way of being, what is the movement from irrationality to intelligibility, but what will be humans' reactions to it. We gotta nail that down. That's why I can't get enough of this book. And here we have a fantastic representation of what will be a lot of people's reactions. The anti-chorus. So the chorus. People will say, you can't confirm analogies. There is no spiritual experience. There is no realm of being. Don't dismiss Paul. Of course there was Easter and resurrection. Have you not seen the chocolate eggs? Everyone believes that Jesus was raised from the dead. Not in it. Added hundreds of years later. Bullshit. Made up. How can all those who witnessed it be wrong? What witnesses? Behind your blah blah is nothing but a doubting Thomas. So they even have a name for people who question their nonsense, doubting Thomas. And by the way, most modern philosophers will reject this as well, because Aristotle. Philosophy isn't about enlightenment. Come on, get out of here. Just master nature, right? Learn how to manipulate people through business and marketing and bribing politicians and manipulating the masses through religion. That's all. Just manipulate people. Master nature. Mastering nature gives you the power to manipulate her. Torture her to reveal us. By the way, experiments. I think that's a quote from, who was it? Hegel? Physical experiments is torturing nature to hope that she'll reveal her secrets. Drop a few nuclear bombs. Right? Cut open some monkey brains and put your Elon Musk chips in their brains. All of the Nazi torture. All of the torture happening in Palestine. So, this approach to understanding is reflected in how humans relate to their world. How many people jump at the chance to join ICE so they can torture brown people? A fuck ton. How many Jewish people jump at the chance to torture Palestinian children? A fuck ton. How many Christians jumped at the chance to torture non-Christians in the Crusades? Again, a fuck ton. Implications of Aristotle and Paul. Paul rejecting Jesus to say, hey, just believe what we say, and by the way, I like torturing people. Aristotle, reject what Socrates says and listen to me. Let's manipulate nature. Let's torture nature through experiments so that she reveals her secrets. So we have all these nuclear bombs and hand grenades and nothing to do with them except for torturing people with them. Wow, what a species we are when we deny truth. When we deny these teachers. When we deny rationality. When we fear and deny the mind. That's our war. Our war isn't against non-believers, it's against mind. Haters hate mind. There's a reason why the bullies picked on the smart kid. What you need to do, says the haters, is drop philosophy. You need a practical approach. Go dig a hole, says our parents when we are contemplating as children. Go take out the trash. How can I benefit, says parents to children, when you are reflecting on yourself? Go be a slave. For me, I want to be king priest, says parents. Whether we like it or not, it's part of where we are as humans. Not your parents. I don't make that joke anymore. Yes, everyone's. It's not a blame game. It's something we have to wake up to and address. Because as a result of that, we walked away with the conclusion to save them and take the blame, which means we can turn around through midwifery and address them with fairness and justice and say, nope, this is the game. Not practical, not torturing kids or Palestinians or anyone else or the poor, not manipulating through marketing or politics or threats, be they parents, kings, or priests. Those who want to rule through belief. Nope, this is the game. They'll say, hey, you know what? Have faith. Do as you're told. And we say, anti-chorus, it's your turn to listen. Is it true that analysis is empty? It's not. You need to know what it's empty of. Your bullshit beliefs. Analysis is empty of torture and belief. Listen to what's being said. See if we don't interpret anything, but we read what's there. You interpret. You add what's not there. The resurrection wasn't there. Paul's teaching wasn't there. Aristotle's teachings wasn't there. You're adding what's not there. You're blind and you're not reading the word. It's painful to realize you have been persuaded to believe what's false obviously false. It's also painful to realize that you have undergone suffering, but it's a suffering of your own making. You made these beliefs to believe these liars, and you are the ones insisting on its truth. You are the one holding on to your fear of mind and understanding. That's the cause of your suffering. That's the cause of what creates suffering in the world. That's the cause of materialism, handguns, nuclear bombs, and hand grenades. Torturing of people, torturing of nature. That's the game that you're in, because you've been torturing yourself by hating mind and understanding to be aligned to belief and groups based on belief. It's painful to realize you've been persuaded to believe what is false. You've been tricked, and you bought that trick. And it's painful to realize that you have been suffering. Yes, you've been suffering. We all have. But it's a suffering of your own making. It's time to wake up from folly. Let's go from foolishness to wisdom, shall we? Put aside the deniers of truth. Put aside Paul. Put aside John, Matthew, and Matthew and Luke. We haven't really gone into Matthew and Luke. They just copied Mark. Let's leave them. Let's put aside Paul. Put aside Aristotle. Put aside the deniers of truth. And seek your freedom in the truths you discover about yourself, as we've been saying today. Don't believe me. Don't even believe Socrates. You seek truth. You discover the truth about yourself for yourself. You have to overcome your fear to look at yourself. That guilt that you've been taught was a lie. That shame you've been taught is a lie. Every human being has problems. Every single one of us. Don't feel guilty. That's a cop-out. It's a lie. Don't feel shame. That's a lie. Don't seek forgiveness. That's a cop-out. Seek to understand. Understand the root causes, the beliefs. Seek the root cause and origin of your belief. Seek to understand it to free yourself from it. And then in that freedom, you reflect on the truth about self and reality to discover the truth about self. The haters have been owned. On that note, I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for joining me. Follow on Twitch, YouTube, join the Discord, link below. Buy me a coffee if you like. Cheers. And yeah, let's keep our question sack and our if sack with us until the next one. And as we continue to read, and I hope to see you there.